Members, please make your way to the chamber so we can get started. Members, please come to the chamber.
House come to order. Members, our prayer today will be given by Patrick Kine. He is the site pastor of the Church of the Highlands in Auburn. He is the guest of Representative Joe Lovern.
Come on, let's pray together. Lord, we thank you. We thank you for the honor it is to gather in a place of freedom and to come together and discuss all that you've given us the responsibility for. And so, Lord, we just ask for right now, Lord, just a supernatural blessing in this room, that you are the creator of all, the one that we can trust in and hope in. So, Lord, bless us today, God, with just supernatural wisdom and the ability to converse with unity, God, in everything we do. God, I pray for influence among all of us, God, that you would give us influence with one another, Lord, that you would give us relationships, God, that are bigger than just policies or anything, that we could trust in you, Lord. And God, we ask for your presence to be in this room, God, that the peace of God that surpasses all understanding would dwell in this room, God, that the joy of the Lord, regardless of circumstance or topic, would be in this room, God, and that we would experience your love regardless of where we are in our faith journey. So, Lord, we just ask for your presence to be here, but also, God, we ask for your protection. Lord, we pray that you would protect us, God, in this season as a year of 2024 unfolds, regardless of circumstance, season, whatever it may be, God, we pray for your protection, that you would protect us and our families, Lord, and all that you've given us responsibility for. So, Lord, we just thank you. God, we praise you, God, that you are the hope that we can trust in. And so it's in Jesus' name that you're going to be in this meeting with us every step of the way. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Members' State Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Bobby Crawford, an intern for the House and a student from Auburn University in Montgomery, majoring in political science.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, read the roll.
Mr. Speaker, Allman, Baker, Bedsole, Blackshear, Bolton, Boyd, Bracy, Brinyark, Brown, Butler, Carnes, Chestnut, Clark, Klaus, Collins, Colvin, Crawford, Daniels, Drummond, Dubose, Easterbrook, Ellis, England, Ensler, Estes, Faulkner, Fiddler, Fincher, Fort, Garrett, Gidley, Gavan, Gibbons, Gray, Hall, Hammett, Harbison, Harrison, Hassel, Hendricks, Hill, Hulk, Jones, Hollis, Hulsey, Hurst, Ingram, Jackson, Jones, Keel, Kirkland, Lamb, Lawrence, Lee, Lipscomb, Lomax, Lovern, Marcus, McCampbell, McClammy, Mooney, Moore M, Moore P, Morris, Oliver, Paramore, Pascal, Pettis, Pringle, Rafferty, Ream, Reynolds, Rigsby, Robbins, Robertson, Rogers, Sellers, Sells, Shaver, Shaw, Shed, Shiree, Simpson, Smith, Sorrells, Stahagen, Standridge, Starn, Stringer, Stubbs, Tillman, Travis, Treadaway, Underwood, Wadsworth, Warren, Whit, Wharton, Wilcox, Wood D, Wood R, Woods, Yarborough.
Seventy-two members have answered roll. Quorum is present. House ready to transact business. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Mr. Speaker, I request that leaves of absence be granted for absent members.
Any objections? Hearing no objection, absent members are excused. The chair further recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Mr. Speaker, I have a report.
House of Representatives, your standing committee on rules begs leave to report that it has carefully examined the Journal of the House for the 6th legislative day and finds the same to be correct. Signed, Representative Joe Lovern, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the reading of the journal at length for the 6th legislative day be dispensed with.
Any objections? Hearing no objections, the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Speaker Pro Tem, Mr. Pringle, for purpose of making announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight the Alabama School of Health Sciences Foundation reception will be held at Central Restaurant from 6 until 7:30. Alabama Installment Lenders Association reception will be held at the RSA Plaza Terrace from 5 until 8 p.m. Tomorrow, the Alabama Association of Volunteer Fire Departments informational reception will be on the 6th floor between 8:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow in the State House. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Pringle. Further recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I move that when we adjourn today, we leave the journal open to allow the clerk to complete his paperwork, that we reconvene on Wednesday, February the 21st at 9 a.m. Wednesday.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. The motion prevails. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Van. A moment of personal privilege.
Members, thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I could have your attention for just a moment. On next Tuesday, and I'm starting this today because I don't want anyone to say that they didn't get the memo or message. Next Tuesday is AKA Day at the Capitol. Dr. Barbara Boyd usually makes these announcements, but myself and Representative Penny McClammy have been now named as the new state coordinators because Dr. Boyd has done this thing for so long and has done a phenomenal job. And we have some big shoes to fill. But starting this week, we're going to be making the announcement to all of the handsome men in the house to wear their pink or green ties, and all of the beautiful women in the house to wear something pink and green or some accent. And I know the speaker has already gone into his closet or will be going into his closet. I think he's on his way to his closet now. But that's next Tuesday, pink and green, AKA Day at the Capitol, and I will be back on Thursday to further remind you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member, if I can have your attention, we got a couple of our members in Miss Laura Hall. Can I have your attention, please, everybody? Miss Laura Hall's brother has passed away, and also, as most of you may or may not know, Steve Hurst's wife is not doing well at all, and we should continue to pray for them. So at this time, I've asked Representative Jackson if he would to come up and say a prayer for their families and to give God give him strength during these hard times.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we approach this podium and this well on the day of sadness that come over our hearts, that we've lost loved ones and other loved ones are at the point of death. See, our life is just a vapor. And we ought to cherish what we do here, because in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, we could be gone. So ask God to bless the families and comfort them as we go to the throne of grace. Father God, as we come before your presence at this hour, we come in the mighty name of Jesus, and we are thanking you for our colleagues. We're thanking you for their family members, the spouse of Steve Hurst and the brother of Representative Laura Hall. And we're asking you to put your arms around them. Comfort them, God, like no other God can do. Do what we can't do. We can only ask, but you can speak confident words to their hearts. Help them to hear. Help them to know that you're with them, because you promised us to never leave us nor forsake us. We ask you to open up their hearts right now, that they may receive the word of grace and the power of love. For it's in you that we live, move, and have our beings. And without you, we can do nothing. But with you, all things are possible if we have faith. And Lord, and you even brought it to the size of a mustard seed, that we can move mountains. And we're praying this morning for comfort for those families. We're praying you lift us up as a body of deliverers, a body of ambassadors for the people that we represent, for this state. Keep us enclosed in our right minds. Doing your favor, our leadership, the speaker, the governors, chairmen of all our committees, ask you to bless and keep us individually and collectively. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. As we talk about the ones that's sick, give me attention just a little bit longer. I know our own Representative Rick Ream and his family is going through some difficulties. His wife is going to MD Anderson, I think, next week. Is Rick here? Let's pray for Rick, too. Joe, you care to say a prayer for Brother Rick and his family?
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, as we reach out to give comfort to their loved ones and those that are going through things, please do a special watch over our colleague, Rick Ream, and his family. They are dealing with so much, and just give them a path, give them some hope. May they treatment be your will. Give them every opportunity to give her comfort, give the family the comfort they need, and continue to shine a light and show your Holy Spirit so that their human spirit will shine, that will be a blessing not only upon them, but to others around them. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We praying for you, Brother Rick. Praying for your family. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern, for a moment of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a quick reminder as we get back going for this calendar year, we're approaching special order calendar event where we'll move off the regular order. Just a reminder, if you have a bill that has cleared committee, you will need to fill out a form and get to Tara in my office. This blue form where you just state the information on there. If we do not have one of these forms, then I will take it that you are still working on the bill, that there's still some aspects before you want it considered by this body. So if you will, just a reminder, come see me or Tara in my office so we can keep your legislation moving. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Chairman Lovern. The clerk is now in position to receive reports, standing committees, and receive those reports throughout the day. The House is now in position to introduce bills and resolutions. Report from Rules.
House Joint Resolution Number 6 by Representative Keel honoring Mr. Hollis Isbell for being inducted into the 2024 Auburn University College of Agriculture Hall of Honor. House Joint Resolution Number 7 by Representative Clark commending McGill Tulin's volleyball team and coach on winning the 2023 Alabama High School Athletic Association Class 7A State Championship. House Joint Resolution Number 14 by Representative Clark, commending and congratulating Coach Kate Wood for being named the State of Alabama's 2023 Volleyball Coach of the Year by the National Federation of High School Associations. House Joint Resolution Number 17 by Representative Hulsey, commending Mr. Will Richard for his outstanding career with the University of Alabama football team. House Joint Resolution Number 23 by Representative Pringle, commending Coach Nick Saban for his professional achievements and exemplary leadership on the occasion of his retirement. House Joint Resolution Number 33 by Representative Shedd, commending Finus St. John IV for his selection to serve as the inaugural Executive Director of the Shelby Institute for Policy and Leadership at the University of Alabama. House Joint Resolution Number 34 by Representative Shedd, mourning the death and celebrating the life of Raymond Gregg Hodges. House Joint Resolution Number 35 by Representative Blackshear, commending and congratulating the Glenwood School Lady Gators basketball team and coaches upon winning the Alabama Independent School Association Class 3A State Basketball Championship. House Joint Resolution Number 36 by Representative Sells, commending Jimmy L. Jones on being inducted into the Texas Longhorn Breeders Association of America Hall of Fame. Senate Joint Resolution Number 4 by Senator Stewart, congratulating Gunnar Randall Henderson for winning the Silver Slugger Award and the 2023 Jackie Robinson American League Rookie of the Year Award. Senate Joint Resolution Number 6 by Senator Melson, commending Special Olympics gold medalist Price Wilton Holcomb for outstanding athletic achievements. Senate Joint Resolution Number 7 by Senator Orr, congratulating George Clark on being named Director Emeritus and President of Workforce Development at Manufacture Alabama. Senate Joint Resolution Number 8 by Senator Allen, commending Nicholas Dunlop
on winning the 2024 American Express on the PGA Tour. Senate Joint Resolution number 9 by Senator Allen, commending Coach Nick Saban for his professional achievements and exemplary leadership on the occasion of his retirement. Senate Joint Resolution number 10 by Senator Singleton, mourning the death and celebrating the life of Judge John Lawrence Carroll.
I move adoption.
All those in favor of adopting the resolutions en masse say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Resolutions have been adopted. Clerk will call the next resolution individually.
House Resolution number 10 by Representative DeBose, recognizing February 11th, 2024 as Stomping Out ALS Day and commending Emma Terry for her efforts toward ALS awareness.
Move for adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
House Resolution number 12 by Representative Faulkner, recognizing March 2024 as Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month in Alabama.
Move for adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
House Resolution number 20 by Representative Hall, recognizing February 7th, 2024 as National Black HIV and AIDS Awareness Day.
I move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
House Joint Resolution number 13 by Representative Faulkner, recognizing March 2024 as Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month in Alabama.
I move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
House Joint Resolution number 15 by Representative Shedd, extending the Joint Interim Study Commission on grandparents raising grandchildren.
Move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
House Joint Resolution number 21 by Representative Reynolds, amending and reenacting Act 2023-383, House Joint Resolution 204, 2023 regular session, creating the Oversight Commission on Alabama Opioid Settlement Funds to increase the membership of the commission.
Move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
House Joint Resolution number 25 by Representative Fidler, acknowledging the crisis at the border and supporting efforts to secure the border.
Move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
House Joint Resolution number 27 by Representative Crawford, recognizing agricultural equipment manufacturers for right to repair initiatives.
Move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
House Joint Resolution number 29 by Representative Hammett, naming the bridge on Alabama State Highway Route 55 that spans Pigeon Creek in Covington County, Alabama, the David Cook Memorial Bridge.
Move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
Senate Joint Resolution number 2 by Senator Wagner, committee appointed to notify the governor the legislature is in session.
I move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
Senate Joint Resolution number 3 by Senator Wagner, committee appointed to escort the governor to joint session of the legislature.
I move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
Senate Joint Resolution number 5 by Senator Singleton, creating the Joint Interim Study Commission on Responsible Technology Purchases by Public Education.
Move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
Senate Joint Resolution number 12 by Senator Chasteen, recognizing the month of May 2024 as Fanconi Anemia Awareness Month in the state of Alabama.
Move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted. Clerk, call the first bill on regular calendar.
On page 2 of the calendar, House Bill number 139 by Representative Ellis, relating to the Department of Insurance.
That's up to him.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Members, House Bill 139 is a Department of Insurance bill. What it would do is remove the Alabama Department of Insurance, make them no longer enumerated agency, meaning that they'd no longer be subject to sunset. When adopted way back in 1976, there were 14 different cabinet-level departments under sunset. Now there's only one remaining, that's the Department of Insurance. Department of Insurance regulates a $32 billion industry and are the single largest contributor to the general fund of around 18%. That number was about $584 million in 2023. And let me be clear on this, the Department of Insurance would still be subject to compliance audits every 4 years, along with the Sunset Committee would still be allowed to audit anytime they deemed necessary. Mr. Speaker, if there's no questions, I call for the BIR.
Chair, you heard the explanation of HB 139. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson, first person to speak on the BIR. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Garrett. Question for the body now is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote.
No misses.
Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 95 ayes, one nay. BR has been adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there's no further questions, I'll call for final passage.
That is the question. It's final passage of HB 139. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 98 ayes, one nay. Bill has been passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
Clerk, call next bill.
On page 2 of the calendar, House Bill number 140 by Representative Ellis, relating to the Department of Insurance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Members, HB 140 is also a Department of Insurance bill. It simply increases the statute of limitations on insurance fraud from 2 years to 7 years, with insurance fraud cases being on the rise. In 2021, there were 225 cases. 22, there were 237 cases. And in 23, there were 326 cases. With that rise, it's just become problematic trying to get the investigations on everything all the way through to trial in that 2-year period. This bill would further provide cleanup language to ensure that fraud investigators, who have to be APOS certified, by the way, but it would ensure that they were able to charge for other crimes found during their insurance fraud investigation. Common crimes uncovered are identity theft, elder abuse and neglect, and theft of property. And Mr. Speaker, I call for the BIR.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Marengo, Representative McCampbell, first person to speak on the BIR.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Will the gentleman yield?
I guess so. Do I have a choice? Well, yes, I absolutely will. Absolutely.
Well, I'm trying to get a full understanding of this bill. Can you just kind of slow down and tell us you were talking it right speedily? I don't understand exactly what you're trying to do. So can you slow down and explain it to me a little bit?
I will do the best I can.
I got the gist of it right now. Appreciate it.
No, I was trying to be respectful of your time.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Jim, will you yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I heard you say something about the penalty being increased to 7 years for insurance fraud, but are there different categories of insurance fraud and severity? And does the penalty, is it based upon the fraud and the severity of it?
Yes, so we're increasing the statute of limitations from 2 years to 7, not the penalty. The penalties
Okay,
would
for
remain the same.
investigation.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, let me ask you something. You also, I think I heard you say that there's a possibility that while they're investigating insurance fraud, they might find some other illegal activity that that person is a part of.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, how does that come into play?
It's already a practice, and I think it's state law, but they're wanting to clear up some language to make sure that they have that arrest authority on crimes that they find during their investigation. Yes, ma'am.
I tell you what my concern about living in the society that we live in. Somebody could point and say that they believe maybe person X is involved in insurance fraud, and that person might not have even been involved, but it's a way for an investigation to get started.
Right.
And they might really be looking at some other activity that the person is involved with that has absolutely nothing with an insurance fraud investigation in the first place. So if say you're investigating person X and saying that the reason the investigation got started was because there was suspicion of insurance fraud, and that person is arrested for some other crime, but there was no really reason or cause for them to do the initial investigation in the first place. They was just trying to get to where they were for the other crime that they actually arrested them for. When they're arrested, is there some type of explanation or proof they have to have that they originally started that investigation because of possible insurance fraud?
So the 2-year limit that we currently have is from the time of discovery. So once the insurance fraud has been discovered, that's when my understanding is the 2-year statute of limitations would start. If we bump that to 7, that's when that 7 year.
No, that's not the question I'm asking. The question I'm asking is that you said that during the process of an investigation for insurance fraud,
right,
if they find some other criminal activity, you could be arrested for that. The situation I'm talking about is that maybe somebody knows somebody that's a part of the insurance fraud investigating team, and they know that person Y is really engaged in some other criminal activity that they would like to expose. But what they do is they go under the disguise that they're doing an investigation based upon insurance fraud. Do they have to prove that that investigation started with the insurance fraud, even though there were other criminal acts that they found at the same time?
Right. You're asking a legal question that I'm not 100% sure on, but I would think there would be some burden of proof for you to launch an investigation for the insurance fraud.
Yeah, because the society we live in and the community that I live in, and even though historically we try to remove all of the missteps that have happened to black folks in this country, I could see somebody saying, because I've seen even with criminal investigation that you might not have any proof. I can use myself that because I was questioning some activities in the city of Birmingham one time, what the mayor did was to prove that I was also participating in criminal activities, had people going door to door in my neighborhood to even ask how often are there more than one car in her driveway? How often do you see a gathering at the house, in order to use it for one purpose, to say that they were suspicious of me doing some other activity in order to use that excuse as a reason to dig up information and misconstrue statements that my neighbor might have made. So, you know, I know it doesn't say this, and last night I tried to pull up to see which bills we would be working with today, and I don't know if there's something wrong with the computer, but I couldn't pull up anything. And those other sites that would let you into Allison, you knew they were suspicious sites that you couldn't go in, but I wish I could have, you know, pulled this up earlier so I could have read more about it, because I don't want someone under disguise of having done insurance fraud to be unduly investigated and probably falsely arrested for some activity that they really are not doing. So I guess, like you said, we need to look into the law to see what already is in place for them to prove that it was insurance possible fraud that they did the investigation in the first place.
Right, and our investigators who investigate this have all on their plate they can handle, so I'm hopeful that that would never happen.
Man, we have a lot of people with a lot on their fate, but we see from one end of government to the other end, there's always room for corruption. And I don't understand that, but there's always room for corruption. But I do appreciate you are listening to the situation that I was putting and the concern that I had about this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. The question for the body now is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 99 ayes, 0 nays. BIR has been adopted. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there's no further question, I call for final passage.
That is questions final passage of HB 140. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 100 ayes, 0 nays. HB 140 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 3 of the calendar, House Bill number 141 by Representative Ellis relating to insurance.
Chairman Ellis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, HB 141 is also a Department of Insurance bill. Current law allows for our Commissioner of Insurance to approve an assigned risk plan for automobile liability insurance for those who are unable to procure the insurance through an ordinary method due to high risk. It's almost like a surplus line for automobile insurance. Currently, the approved plan authorizes the Automobile Insurance Plan Service Office, that we know as APSO, to write these policies under the authority of a third-party license provider. What that means, in simple terms, is an admitted carrier will often write the insurance, but it will be on the APSO. They'll write the insurance and it'll be on their paper, so it'll appear that it's from one insurance carrier when APSO, the plan, is actually the one that's holding the policy and handles the claims and whatnot. What that does is also often causes confusion when there is a claim or questions about one's policy. And so what this bill does will allow, one, it names the plan, which will be called the Alabama Automobile Insurance Plan, AAIP, and it will allow APSO to administer that plan and write those policies on its own paper. They call that a plan paper model, and several states have done it. I'm looking at probably about 15 states have done it. It's just it's easier on the consumer for them to know who their policy is with. And it does say 15 other states have handled it. And what this does is APSO will directly handle the underwriting, the claims oversight, administrative, and all of that. So, Mr. Speaker, if there's no questions, I call for the BIR.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question I got is this: is that really I'm asking the question because I had to go get some get a license plate, and a question came up when I went to get the license plate about insurance.
Yes, sir.
All right. How would that affect if, say, if you had a car or a truck? I had a truck, and of course we passed the bill down here one time for that to waive the fee one time of $200. Remember that?
I think I do recall that.
Okay, but say for instance, Mr. Jones over there had a truck. He hadn't driven that truck in about a whole 2 years. But now he wants to get a license for his truck. This bill will affect him or me anyway because he wants to not get a license. His license been suspended because he didn't get one every year. So therefore, his tag is suspended. How would the bill affect that?
Well, none really, because the mandatory insurance bill requires that we have, liability insurance on a vehicle before you put it on the road and put a tag on it. So that exists now, and it will exist tomorrow. All this does is changes how we write those policies. So there's a group, that's this APSO group, which is a nonprofit. That's a bunch of carriers that write the automobile insurance. They've gone in together because to make sure that we have liability insurance for all Alabamians. And so it's higher risk, but this ensures that they'll be able to get the insurance. That's what the group does. All this does is allow that group to write the insurance on their own paper, meaning that they've got their own product in their paper, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, but say for instance, he hasn't driven the vehicle for a whole year. So if you get a tag like in 1 year, you don't drive the vehicle for another whole year, your tag is suspended, right?
Well, this has nothing to do with the tags and getting tags and registering vehicles. It's simply the liability insurance for your automobile. Has nothing to do with the tags. Doesn't affect it at all.
Was allow a person to be able to get liability insurance? I mean, once they show proof of liability insurance to the wherever they take the tag, and everything is in order, they should be able to get the license.
Yeah,
license plate, right?
This helps them get that liability insurance, and then they can take that and get the tag under whatever statute there is, but we hadn't opened a statute that covers that at all.
Okay, all right. I was wondering because I knew it happened to a person in front of the line of me just the other day.
Yes, sir.
A question came up about the liability insurance, and they had not driven the vehicle for a whole year, so they had one, but there wasn't some question about it. So I wonder will this some kind of way affect that.
It will not.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
All right, thank you.
Question for the body now is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock machine, record the votes. 101 ayes, 0 nays. The BIR has been adopted. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there's no further questions, I'll call for final passage.
That is the questions, final passage of HB 141. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 100 ayes, 0 nays. HB 141 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 3 of the calendar, House Bill number 142 by Representative Ellis relating to the Department of Insurance.
Chairman Ellis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Members, HB 142, to no one's surprise, is a Department of Insurance bill. If you can suffer through this one with me, I promise I'm done for the day. So this bill, HB 142, does several things, but it adopts. It's also NAIC, which is the National Association of Insurance Commissioners bill, and it adopts and makes into law revisions that they made to their Surplus Line Insurance Model Act, number 870. Does several things, and I'll run through them, then answer any questions. But it requires non-admitted carriers from outside the U.S. to be listed on a quarterly listing of alien insurers maintained by the NAIC. Allows surplus line insurance transactions to be reported quarterly rather than on a 30-day rolling basis. Currently, if you write a surplus insurance line, you've got to send a report in within 30 days of the time you write it. So it's always a moving target. This simplifies that for carriers, and they can do it on a quarterly basis. Requires non-resident surplus brokers to comply with the same requirements as our resident surplus line brokers. Of course, we want those outside the state to maintain the same level of expertise and as our in-state. Codifies and defines home state and what that means. It also codifies the federal exemption requirement for diligent search efforts. There's a federal exemption if you're writing a commercial surplus line. If you meet certain requirements, you don't have to do that diligent search effort, which means you don't have to first check to see if that policy would be available through admitted carrier. That's for commercial policies only. It also defines broker fee and requires disclosure for consumer protection. And then lastly, it repeals the surplus line insurance multi-state compliance compact. That's something that was set up years ago, and it never got off the ground. No states end up joining it. Alabama will actually be the last state to remove that from their law and pull back from that compliance. With that, Mr. Speaker, I call for the BIR.
That's question for the body is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Recorded votes, 98 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Chairman Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there's no further questions, I call for final passage.
Representative Hammond, you don't speak. I missed. I'm sorry about that. I've done call for the vote.
Explain to me what the surplus line brokers are and surplus line insurance.
Okay, good question. I probably should have done that, so my apologies. So surplus lines are higher risk insurance. When I think of it, I think of coastal insurance, where you typically have a very high risk, especially with Hurricane Sally and other hurricanes. So surplus line brokers are the ones that come in when no admitted carrier is going to want to cover it and everybody pulls back. Then we allow surplus line broker. Lloyd's of London would be one of our authorized surplus lines. So it's just a higher risk insurance.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body now is passage of HB 142. Clerk will unlock the machine and record the votes. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes, 99 ayes, 0 nays. HB 142 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, body.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 3 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 39 by Senator Chambliss relating to dam safety.
Representative Almond, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you. This is a dam safety bill, and
you care to explain that again?
we actually passed this bill last year, and this is just an amendment to that bill dealing with the state-owned dams. They couldn't quite get all that worked out last year, and so they saved it till this year, and that's what's going through this year is the state-owned dams to be able to participate in our new dam safety program. So if there are no questions, I'll call for the BIR. Did you want me to further explain, Mr. Speaker?
I was wanting you to give me the name. That's what I was wanting you to give me, if that's okay.
I've given it to you twice. That's enough.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Gavan.
Let me ask a question. I thought I remembered this bill from last year, but you said that what were the amendments?
For this year, what they added was the state-owned dams. That was not in last year's bill. They just couldn't get the wording worked out at the last minute, so they
So
took
what
it out.
happened with the bill? It just didn't
passed.
make it.
It passed.
It passed. I know it passed
Yeah.
the House.
Yep, it passed, and we now have a dam safety program in this state. And this just adds.
That word does something to members.
I know.
Because, I mean, it absolutely
I think it's
doesn't
me
tickle
saying
me
it.
fancy to hear that word. But anyway, okay, I'm lost on that one. But listen, so the bill passed. This is a new bill.
It's a new bill to add to the same bill we're adding to the same bill we passed last year.
Okay, that's what I was confused on. I was trying to make sure that I remember the bill passing out the House. I did not know if it made final passage before we signed died. So that bill was enacted, and now this is that we're amending last year's bill.
Correct.
Okay, in other
Right.
words, we're
You're
making
right.
an amendment to it. And the two amendments are?
Really, all it does is, the main thing it does is add the state-owned dams to the program, okay?
Okay, and that was the question I think that I had last year. Where are the dams here in the state of Alabama?
I don't know where all they are, but I can tell you that there are 36 of them.
Okay.
34 of which are controlled by the Department
Okay,
of
I'll find out, because that was, I think, the question I think that I had last year, and I don't know why I thought someone was going to give me that information to know exactly where, because I would like to know how many are in the western side of, a part of Jefferson County, or in Jefferson
Well,
County.
there are some in Jefferson County, and the best thing about this program, it's all voluntary, and if a community or town or city or county chooses to participate, if they comply, then that opens them up to being able to receive some federal money.
That's
out
what I
there.
thought.
Yeah.
I knew there was some kind of link to additional funding or funds. Do you know how much federal dollars are involved with this?
I do not. I do know we're the last state in the country to enact such a program. So.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I would like to know, because, and I would like to know the organizations in particular that are involved, because any type of resource that will have a cause and effect of dollars flowing to some of the neighborhoods, I would like to know that.
I think it's 75-25 money, but I don't know how much it is.
So there's a match.
There's a match. Mm-hmm.
And the community or city, municipality or city or town has to be able to provide the 25. Okay, I just wanted to get the clarity on it. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. Question for the body now is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock machine and members vote. Clerk will lock machine, record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Representative Almond, you're further recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I move for final passage.
That is questions final passage of SB 39. Clerk will unlock machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock machine, record the votes. 102 ayes, 0 nays. SB 39 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, body.
Chair thanks the lady. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 4 of the calendar, House Bill number 87 by Representative Brown relating to airport authorities.
Chairman Brown, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is House Bill 87. This allows airport authorities to enter into public-private partnerships. Alabama's near the bottom of spending on our airports, and this allows them another tool in their toolbox to enter into joint ventures to improve their facilities. Mr. Speaker, I call for the BIR.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Rogers.
question I got.
Yes, sir.
Who is the overseeing authority of the person who runs the airport? Because we had airport authority in Birmingham, and he get into a contract with some people, and he lost his job. So now, who oversees the once he signed for the contract? It comes down for the repairs or whatever going to come down to the airport. Who oversees him?
Well, at the end of the day, the airport authority, I mean, they're all different, but the airport authorities are appointed positions usually by, they're an independent authority, but they have a representative from the city, from the county, those sorts of things.
So now, so in other words, if the mayor of Birmingham appoints the airport authority at the Birmingham Airport, whatever the name is, not Birmingham Airport, but, and so now, there's oversees the authority of the mayor of the city, right? Would it be oversee that authority? I think it kind of misleading because of the fact that I can tell you right now, we had a airport authority manager, a friend of mine to be exact, and he did some contracts at the airport, and they fired him for doing that. So with this bill, there's no protection at all for anybody else. I mean, I mean, every airport authority, they're all under one umbrella or what?
No, they're all different. But what this, the whole purpose of this is that, let's say you have an airport in, let's say, Bessemer.
Okay.
And you want to.
Which is a little bit of airport now. We talk about these big airports like in Birmingham.
Or Huntsville, let's say. In Birmingham,
wherever.
wherever.
Birmingham. Okay.
But let's say you want to upgrade your facility, but yet you don't have the funds to upgrade your facility. So you could enter into a public-private partnership just like a city could do so that you could upgrade your hangars, your parking, whatever.
I know that. Stop right there. But you are saying, this bill is saying that you're giving that person gratis to go into a contract on their own with someone else. Who oversees that? I mean, what about the person overseeing the airport authority themselves? They have airport, they got boards and all that kind of stuff. So to tell me, like we used to overstep some boundaries here, because I'm looking at my man, they just miss him because of the fact he signed some contract. They had a lawsuit coming from it because of the fact that one of the lockers that in the wallway fell and killed somebody, not injured them. So now who will be responsible for that lawsuit?
I'm not sure I'm following what you're telling me.
What I'm saying is that you give an authority for them to go into some contract to do what they're going to do. But now, when something happens, I'm looking at a lawyer. The lawyer can tell me, I'm in Birmingham, who's responsible if that something happens in that authority? He signed the contract, and they lost his job because of the fact he signed a contract on his own.
Well, I mean, you don't enter into a contract without that being spelled out. It's no different than a public-private partnership. A good example would be the new State House we're doing with RSA. We're agreeing to lease that with RSA. Who's responsible for that? I mean, it's the end of the day that the airport authority it's going to be spelled out who's responsible. More than likely, it's going to be a separate entity altogether that you form to do that one operation. Whether it be, say, you build a parking deck and you don't have, the flip side of that would be to come up with $60 million to build a parking deck, and that's money that's taken out of operations because every airport has to come up with 10 to 20% every single year for FAA matching funds. So this allows them to do that and provide better service to the consumer.
I'm all for that. What I'm saying to you, and I'm going to give you a case in point. All right, a young boy was walking through the airport. He had just had repairs done in the airport. One of the lockers hadn't been secured to the wall. He entered into a contract for repairs. The young boy went and grabbed the locker and got crushed playing with the locker. The authority, the guy at the airport, he got sued. The authority didn't take any responsibility. But they okayed for the repairs. So now, you see what I'm getting at, right?
I do. I do see what you're getting at. But I think what
What was that guy named that got fired at Birmingham Port Authority? For the same reason. I mean, that brings the question what I'm saying. The airport, he got approved for everything is okay, but they fired him for the improvements at the airport once they got sued for a young kid for the thing not being secured to the wall. So now they approved everything went through the airport authority, but who ended up with the final responsibility is the person at the airport, right? The airport manager.
Well, the way that it would normally work is that, let's say, I don't know, whatever airport, Birmingham Airport, and then you enter into a public-private partnership with, I don't know, ABC Ventures to oversee the parking deck, and then they collect the funds off of the parking deck until it's paid for, and then so that you would, in that agreement, you would enter into, then there's going to be a responsible party for that. I mean, that you just can't have an agreement where there's no one responsible. So what you were describing to me, someone was held responsible. I mean, it was more likely whose ever terminal that was. So, but that was spelled out in whatever agreement they had with Delta or whomever airlines that was using that terminal. So, I mean, there's always going to be a responsible party. You cannot have an operation that you don't have a responsible party. It just doesn't. It doesn't work that way.
Okay, I understand. Not Delta or Boeing, whatever the airline it is. I'm talking about the actual facility of the airport, the airport where it is. Okay, and not the terminal. I'm talking the terminal where you board. I'm not talking getting on the airport. Delta, they got a contract with them. Delta has a contract with them. So does Another Airways. That doesn't affect this. When we talking about the actual facility of the airport, the actual facility of the airport is where you go wait to get on the airplane. All right? I'm talking that facility. All right? I'm going to give you a real example of what happened. I can't remember the name, but he lost his job because of the mere fact that he didn't check out the contract went through everything. Somebody got killed. A young kid got killed, hurt, by climbing up on one of these lockers on the wall and it toppled over on him. Well, that doesn't protect the airport manager. This bill doesn't protect the airport manager. It says,
well, I see what you're saying, but that's not the way that when you sign an agreement, you spell that out. So you can't put in legislation about potential agreements that haven't occurred. That legally that's not possible to do. You can't do that. I can't project into the future of a possible agreement that the Birmingham Airport may enter into. This is just
in the airport. I didn't use Birmingham, but it could be one of those chicken squid fly by night running Mobile, Montgomery. There ought to be some kind of protection there for the manager of the airport authority.
Sure. What this bill is aimed at doing is just providing more economic opportunities for our cash-strapped airports so that they can provide better service. And all those, what you're describing is spelled out in every agreement of who's held responsible.
Not really. But what I'm saying to you, I know what you're trying to do.
Right.
It makes sense. It makes it easy for them to do construction and do everything like that, build a runway like that. But I'm saying there ought to be something in this bill saying Mobile Airport manager entered into a contract to have some repairs done at that Mobile Airport. He ought to have something in the bill to protect him if something goes wrong. Well, he won't be liable for the lawsuit.
Well, I understand what you're saying for that, but the Birmingham Airport is
I'm talking about Mobile now. I'm talking about Mobile Airport now.
Well, but what I'm saying is every airport in the state is on board with this legislation because it provides them better opportunities to grow and provide the residents of Birmingham.
Jim's time has expired.
So,
thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentlemen, will you yield?
Yes, ma'am.
So how have they been getting funding in the past before this bill is passed?
Well, they would rely on state funds, federal funds, or, internal funds from selling space, that sort of thing, hangar space. So, I mean, we're at when it comes to spending on our airports, we're at the very bottom in the Southeast. We're millions of dollars behind our neighboring our neighboring states on the amount of money that we spend. So what this bill will allow them to do is let's say you want to upgrade, you want to build another terminal, let's say, and this would allow you to enter into an agreement with, say, Delta Airlines, and do a public-private partnership with that company. They can come in
it's
and
not Delta. You can enter an agreement with some other company to help you get the funding.
Right.
I guess what my concern is, are we just talking about, we have a few large airports in the state, but this would include smaller airports too? Because what it seems to me is that you're opening up doors for these smaller airports to be competitive with your larger airports. Now, and I would have some concern there, because I see certain cities, mid-sized cities, or compared, when you compare the sizes of the cities in the state of Alabama, over the years, they not only with airport, with other entities in these cities, they are trying to get to the point that they all be competitive with each other. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to present a problem. Because say, for instance, if Tuscaloosa, a lot of traffic seems like it's starting to go through Tuscaloosa. This will give Tuscaloosa the opportunity to enter into a public-private relationship with their airport to expand it. Then I could come on down to Bessemer, to the same thing, and with all of them, they sharing all the same airways. So at what point in time do we max out with that used to be a smaller or mid-sized airport as it expands in the direction of people migrating from one area of the state to the other area of the state? Where do we put a cap on this? So at some point I can foresee Bessemer being in major competition with Birmingham. I could foresee cities that's around Mobile or Montgomery at some point being in competition. Then we got the same general problems that you have when you look at an Atlanta airport, where they merged parts of 4 counties together and created this mega-sized airport, and there's just more problems than they can handle at this point in time. So I wonder why it was necessary to bring this, because I believe that there's more in it than meets the eye, because I could see so many places that, especially as people try to kill off the city of Birmingham, I could see the Bessemers, and I could see the Tuscaloosas, and I could see a lot of smaller airports around the city of Birmingham that would benefit from this, and at the same time come competitive with the city of Birmingham. At one point in time, it's been quite a few years since something similar like this came up, but that one primary purpose was to kill off the Birmingham airport and build the airport and allow a smaller airport in a connecting county to expand so that it could be competitive and would cause the Birmingham airport to downsize. So I have some concerns with this, because if it's additional funding that needs to come from the state or the federal government, we need to look at that. But let all the airports that want to do some type of additional work enter into a public-private partnership. And that brings another thought. Can they enter into a public-private partnership with a country or an entity in another country?
No, the Birmingham Airport is supportive of this. All of the airports.
No, we argue with Birmingham. Birmingham can't think
But you
for
keep
themselves.
saying that it's going to kill Birmingham.
Because that's where I live.
Okay.
And I see
Okay.
I see so many things in the city being downsized because of the competition around. That's why I say they ain't thinking smart. I explained that to that meeting, their last meeting that I went to, that they weren't thinking smart along those lines, because once you got these small or mid-sized places around you having the same opportunity to expand, then there's open competition. And not only is there open competition, but you got problems that's like you see in Atlanta and a lot of these larger places where you have more airplane problems because you got more airplanes in the air. You see what I'm saying? I think that we have to, in order for this to be a better bill, I think that we have to put a cap on the size of airports that we're allowing to go into these public partnerships for them to expand, because I think it can get out of hand, and I know it could get out of hand, but and it don't say that in what little information we could get. I said at the last bill I came to, I had problems trying to figure out what was going to be on the calendar today. Something was wrong with the computer, and it wouldn't even let you pull it off. For some reason, you at least could get some information, but that screen was just blank. Last night, I went in several times to try to get some idea of what was going to be on the calendar so I could pull those bills and be able to read them in more detail so that I could know more about them. But with this, with the little detail I get, to just open it up for all airports that currently exist or might exist in the state of Alabama, that they would be able to enter into public-private partnership. And most times they're doing that for, like you said, for expansion or to update their facilities. I could see at some point that we're going to have a conflict. Even if it's not with Birmingham, it could be with Mobile, it could be with Huntsville, it could be with Montgomery over time, that when you open the door like that to allow all of these public-private partnerships to happen for whatever reason. Right now, how many different airports or airports that might be affected in the state of Alabama?
Well, every state, every airport authority in the state of Alabama would be covered under this, because I
How
don't
many
believe,
we have?
I'd have to look. I just don't believe you should discriminate against the.
I'm not saying discriminate.
Well, you are, though. You're saying you're going
I'm
to punish
saying
the
if you
small
don't-
airports for the sake of the big
because-
cities, and I just
Look
disagree
here,
with
some
that.
of these cities are much too close together for everybody to be expanded. You got to look at the situation and what could possibly happen in the future if all of them are expanding, if all of them got more and more air traffic coming and going, and they're so close together. That's why one of the reasons I use Jefferson County. You got Birmingham, you got Bessemer, then you got in Tuscaloosa County, you got Tuscaloosa. Ain't but a few, when you look at the space between them, and you're talking about airplanes taking off, airplanes landing, and all of these facilities are so close together, I think that you open the door for a problem, and I think we need to look at it where in the future we don't have that problem with planes taking off, planes landing, because I'm trying to compete with this one, I'm trying to compete with that one, and then we're ending up with problems in the air that are unintended consequences. That's all I'm saying that we need to look at. Thank you so much.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the lady from Mobile. Chairman Wilcox. Be the third person to speak on the BR.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. I'm speaking in favor of the BIR for this bill. I hope that everybody passes the BIR. And I think that in light of the educational forum that we attended in Mobile, where we were given a comparison of many other states and the funding that they have available for airports, this gives another tool in the toolbox, as you say, for our airports to do the job that they need to serve the citizens of our state. And in particular, I know Mobile has some needs, so I am speaking particularly for our city of Mobile and the airport authority that has requested this. And I'm not surprised that the other airports across the state would also like this flexibility of funding. There's other smaller airports than the one that we're relocating to downtown that might have some freight capabilities that it would be ideal to have a public-private partnership. So I speak in support of your bill, and I hope that everybody passes the BIR.
Thank you, Representative. There's 96 public use airports in Alabama.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that
96.
many. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Dale, Representative Klaus. Be the fourth person to speak on the BIR.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Brown, I appreciate you bringing this bill. Not only the airport authority is important to big and small airports, but particularly more rural airports because of economic development and also serving some part-time pilots like Representative Sales. So I appreciate you bringing this.
Thank you, Representative Klaus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for the body now is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Recorded votes, 99 ayes, 2 nays. BIR has been adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call for final passage.
Chair recognizes the lady from Mobile, Representative Drummond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me, because the area where our airport is in Mobile, I certainly favor this bill, so I'm not up here not to say I favor it, and it is going to help us. I just want the members to know in Mobile, it is going to help us to have the controlled growth that we need around our airport. It will be responsible growth. And as Representative Wilcox said, we had an educational meeting. But I like this bill because it's going to give us an opportunity to be able to control the growth. I, along with Representative Clark, represent those folks around the airport, so I am certainly in favor of having a mechanism by which we can work with those in the private industry to control that growth. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Representative Drummond. I appreciate it.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Rogers.
What growth control? Oh, I don't know what you talking about. Growth control? You finna blow it out your ass. No, I'm trying to tell you what you got. Where does the mayor play a role in this at all? If you get an airport that authority, where does the mayor of that city play a role in this at all? Where? Show me where the mayor plays a role in this. In this.
Well, you have to look at the structure of how the authority is organized. I can't tell you how the Birmingham Airport Authority is specifically organized, so I can't answer that.
Stop right there. Stop right. Say what you said. Say it again. Say it very slowly. That's what you just said.
I can't tell you how the Birmingham is that.
A Mobile, or Huntsville, or Montgomery. You can't tell how it's structured, right?
They're all individually different. Some have different appointing authority, but at the end of the day, right now, they currently can't enter into public-private partnerships. So we're stifling the growth of every airport across this great state of ours, and we're limiting their growth, their economic potential, their jobs that are coming to each and every city here. We're limiting the passengers that could fly out of Birmingham Airport, could fly out of the Troy Airport, could fly out of Mobile's airport, could fly out of any airport in this great state of ours. So we're limiting that, so we're limiting our economic potential because we don't allow them to enter into public-private partnerships currently.
All right. What role does the mayor of of Mobile, if it was, or the city council of Mobile or Birmingham have to play in this. They have no role in this at all.
I don't know that I don't know.
The mayor of Mobile would have no sense at all. Neither would the city council.
I don't know the appointing authority of the specific Birmingham airport. I am assuming that
I'm
that is
on Birmingham
appointed
now.
by
I'm
the,
on Mobile.
well, the airport authority is by the city council and the mayor. They have a role in that.
Yeah, they have a role.
They have appointed
a
authority.
limited role, but you taking that role away from them, him having any input in what's been happening. That's what I'm saying. So therefore, what you're about to do is that the person I'm talking about is Al Dempsey in Birmingham. That's what I'm talking about. He lost his job, airport management, because of the same kind of thing happening. In other words, you are bypassing the authorities, which might be the mayor of Mobile or the city council of Mobile, because they were appointing somebody to be on that board, so they were giving away all their authority, you said, right? Because if the mayor appoint John Doe or Mary Sue to the board, they give away all the responsibility for their area, and everybody starts doing a certain thing. Also, you got the ports involved in this also, right? I mean, Mobile got the biggest port. Birmingham got a small port. But what you're doing is that you're taking away all the way from the cities being taken away from it. And they have no say-so in it, really, when they decided to do it. The city of Birmingham or the city of Mobile, they don't have no say-so. Because they appointed somebody to be on the board, and that's it. And they through. So they're at the mercy of that person they appointed on the board, who probably going to get outvoted in the first place. Because the other people are not going to outvote that person. What I'm saying. So that's why I see the danger in this bill, that there are no checks and balances on what they're about to do. I'm all for growth. I think it should grow. But I think it should grow with everybody's involvement in it, and not giving authority to somebody who's not the mayor of the city or not representing that city, had a pulse in their hand the right to have some say so. And the guy talking to him, Al Dempsey. Al Dempsey went ahead, did what you say you about to do right here. When it happened, he lost his job. Because of the fact that the mayor didn't like what he did. They had a conflict. So therefore, you about to set up a conflict between the city and the airport. You getting the authority at the airport, power over the city. And the city ought to be involved in from the inception. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well, let me ask you a question. If the Birmingham Airport Authority wants to enter into an agreement with Spirit Airlines, do they take that to the mayor right now?
No.
No. So why would they take this to the mayor?
When you talk about it.
It's the same thing.
You talk about increasing, doing something. I'm not talking about say you want to agree on picking up passengers or bringing in another airline like that. I'm talking about when you talk about expanding. You talking about expanding. You talking about a small airport might be 500 square feet. Now you want to make it 1.5 million square feet. You infringing on land involving what the city owns or somebody else owns, and they're not having said so. Other than I put John Doe on the board. When the money go ahead and come from another source, but I imagine you're going to have some matching money from the city sometime anyway. So that's what I'm talking about. See what I'm saying? That's what I'm getting at. I mean, I'm not here to fight your bill all the way, but I just want some kind of inclusion. If I'm the mayor of a city, I want to have some say so in what's going to happen at my airport in my city, because it's my land. It's in my city. That's all I'm saying. That's the only question. I'm not here to fight your bill, but I'm just saying.
I've gotten some clarification for you. In Birmingham, the mayor and the city council do appoint the airport authority like they do in other cities. So at the end of the day, they still have the overall authority. They can clear out the board. They can do what have you. I mean, this doesn't change at all.
They appoint somebody on the board. You don't appoint enough to have any authority and control. What this bill does is takes away that way from the mayor and basically the city. They got an appointment, yeah. But hey, one appointment, if you got a 9-member board, a 7, 8-member board, you got one appointment. My lawyer will tell you that don't mean nothing. You got one vote on that board. Got one appointment. Sam Jones, the mayor of Mobile, my friend. He appoints somebody to the airport authority. That one person. But you got 7, 8 folks on there for somewhere else. So where the power going to be with the other 7 or 8? Not with who the mayor put on the board. I'm saying it's not fair to a city to do that. It's not fair to the manager of the airport. They want the bill. Cause I just got word they want the bill. They probably gonna pass it, but I'm saying they're passing a headache. I'm telling you right now, Al Jones, the man thought he was doing what was right. He got fired.
I don't know him.
I know him. He's a friend of mine.
I can't speak to it because I don't know him.
He's
I'm sure
a friend of mine.
if you know him, I'm sure he's a good guy. I just don't know the case at all.
I know the case, but that wasn't all he did, but that was one of the things. I mean, there's a whole lot more stuff involved, but that was one of the things that some kid, they didn't have the locker to the wall like that, and some kid came along and pulled on a locker, and the locker top low. He had to take responsibility for that contractor not securing that locker to the wall. Well, it should have been a suit against the contractor who did it, but he had to take responsibility, and the improvement was done not at the request of the city. It was done through the airport authorities. But when it came down to the nitty gritty, they skipped town on it. See what I'm trying to get at?
Mm-hmm.
So now you finna give him all this authority, and I know what they did to this man. And so what I'm saying to you is that I think it's a problem with it, and I'm gonna talk about it. How long is this bill? What is this bill? I might have a red list with everything, because I'm opposed to this bill. I know what it does to the city of Birmingham and other cities.
How long is the bill?
Yeah. Yeah, pages. Okay,
3 pages.
All right, I'll leave
Well,
it
2
alone.
pages technically, because the first page is just.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I won't go that route, but I'm totally opposed to it because I know what happened.
This doesn't change the oversight at all.
The gentleman's
Mayor
time
and
has
council's
expired.
Oversight.
Gentleman recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Mayor Jones.
Yeah, it doesn't change that at all. All this is doing.
Gentleman, yield.
Yes, Mayor.
Just for some points of clarification. The entire airport board is appointed by the mayor.
Right. Thank you, Mayor.
No one else has any input into that. The mayor appoints the whole board. The board hires the director. The director works directly for the board. All of the tort at the airport is the board's. The board is insured to anybody who sues of any action at the airport, they actually sue the airport authority. If the director does something, he acts on behalf of the board. So the director, I don't know why he would have been fired without the board, firing him, because he does not work for the mayor. No employee at the airport in Mobile works for the mayor. The legislation was put forth because at present, as you know, the airport is being moved downtown Mobile, and the airport wants to partnership with some private entities to do things like build a parking garage in the buildings they don't want to be in. Under present law, they cannot partnership with a corporation. And the real reason for that is no airports can do that at this point. So that's why this legislation was brought. Just so they could be able to have amenities right now that they can't contract with any private entity. As far as the legislation is concerned, it really came about because airports are limited into how they can develop. And they're in the process of developing that airport, and that's why the legislation is like it is.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the clarity on that issue. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Hale, Representative Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, gentlemen, yeah.
For you, yes, sir.
In this bill, what you're dealing with and everything, you know, one of the things that, and I know is getting big now, where we're dealing with like freight business. So like if an airport would enter into business with like UPS or FedEx to be a terminals to be able to handle cargo, that's going to be made allowable by this bill and everything. And then the other thing that's important about this bill, you know, one of the places that, and where I live is Tuscaloosa, we do a lot of bringing in parts from Mercedes by airlines and everything. So that gives them the opportunity, if they were in a manufacturer in the case Mobile, like Airbus, they could enter into a agreement with a supplier to build a hangar or something like that, work in partnerships and them provide that hangar so that they would be able to utilize that as their facilities to bring in goods and service, particularly from your area, but be able to bring in stuff from the docks, that's shipped in on the docks, place it into a warehouse and build warehouses and operate in that partnerships there in Mobile and other places across the state. That's just the purpose of this bill, to allow corporations to be able to enter, because really, I think I know Birmingham is different, but air cargo, air freight service is becoming a real big priority. And when we're talking about moving transportation, moving stuff, kind of like FedEx did years ago up in Memphis. So this would allow the airport authority, which is a board made up of people appointed and everything, to make decisions, to allow that to be into a legal agreement, whether it's leasing land or whether it's participating in the financial bonds, all that type of thing, to make sure those go forward. And that's what this will allow to happen, correct?
Thank you, Representative. Yeah, it'd be incredibly beneficial from an economic development and job standpoint.
Right.
And you know, the fact that our airports are so underfunded, it would allow them to grow and it'd be beneficial to our neighborhoods and communities.
Right. So this is a really good bill because, like I said, you see a lot of that happening nowadays as airlines, is that part of the business. And in Alabama, it's actually said since they've been so underserved, because those are development and economic development opportunities, and really having that available really allows us to move things more efficiency in the manufacturing process. So I think this is a really great bill, and I appreciate you for going forward and bringing it on behalf of the state of Alabama.
Thank you, Representative Travis. I appreciate it.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Gavan.
I'm just trying to get the clarity on this bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you just explain it to me? It's sparked my interest since I continue to hear the Birmingham Airport coming up.
That's just an example. It applies to every airport in the state. What this does, it just allows airport authorities to enter into public-private partnerships to help with things such as parking decks. You know, if you need to grow, you need to add hangar space, you can enter into public-private partnerships to get that done, because they're so underfunded that they can't come up with that money themselves. It helps them to grow and to operate. It's money that's not currently, it actually in the long term saves the state money because it's not money that's coming out of the general fund for aviation.
Okay, help me understand something. And I guess I've been hearing the discussion. So is this only for certain types of contracts, or is this for all contracts?
Well,
Because you're specifically mentioning certain types of contracts.
well, I'm just using that as an example. It allows them to do joint ventures, partnerships, limited partner shareholders.
So that could be on any contract.
Relating to airport operations, land acquisition, and activities in the operation of the authority. So essentially anything relating to the airport, they could enter into a public-private partnership. Let's say you wanted to open up a restaurant at the airport. Just an example, they could enter into an agreement with you that currently other entities do, that you could have space in that airport and you.
So how do they enter into those vendor agreements now?
Well, they can't enter, this would allow them to enter into separate public-private partnerships to, you could essentially form a separate entity to, let's say a parking deck. Let's say a parking deck. You could enter into and offset the cost of construction, which would be millions and millions of dollars. You enter an agreement with a vendor that the vendor would run the parking deck and they would get a certain amount of the proceeds over, say, 20 years. And then at the end of that time, it would revert back to the airport authority. Right now, they can't do that. They would have to, right now, let's say Huntsville Airport wants to build a parking deck. They would have to come up with that money up front on their own, which is going to take services away from something else. So this allows them to grow while not maintaining that huge amount of debt.
Okay, let me ask this. I'm gonna try to simplify this. And I don't want you to get insulted, because what happens when I ask you all questions and I really don't know the answer, you feel demasculated as a man. A lot of you all do, and I'm over that now in 14 years. I'm just trying to get the clarity. So let me just try to fix it as simple as I can. Currently, how are airport authorities able to enter into agreements with contractors, subcontractors, vendors, what have you?
Well, they do them as general contracts. Let's say you like a restaurant. They rent the space to the restaurant comes in, operates in the space. It's no different than owning like a shopping center and you come in and do that. But the problem comes out of expansion or growth. You can't, as an airport, if I want to do some type of infrastructure improvement, I'm going to have to come up with that money on my own. What this would do for the first time is allow those airports to grow without having to come up with millions and millions of dollars on their own. It's going to be limited in scope because there's just not a lot of private entities out there that are wanting to take on the economic, risk of partnering with an airport.
The Airports Authority get the majority of their funding where? From where?
Well, it's a combination, local, state, federal.
Okay. So, for instance, when I'm seeing airport expansion projects, typically those expansion projects, the airport has already entered into agreements with some entity for the purpose, whether they are, and even if they are leasing property, they're serving as the lessor, so they're entering into agreements with lessees.
Right.
So they can do that now.
Right.
I'm just trying to get to how this enhances what they're already doing. That's I can't go any more basic than that.
Well, I keep talking about the parking deck, but it's a great example because the way it is now, if I wanted to build a parking garage, well, you asked a question.
I'm just turning around. I didn't tell you not to stop.
Okay.
I hear you. I'm just.
Well, I mean, you asked a question. I'm answering you. If you build a parking garage right now, let's say it costs $100 million, I'm going to have to come up with $100 million. What this bill would allow an airport to do is to enter an agreement with, say, a vendor that runs parking garages, and they offset the cost of the parking garage with that vendor. So instead of being $100 million, it might be $20 million. And that's money that the airport could put towards something else because.
So are you saying, and I guess this is what I'm trying to get to. Are you saying that giving the airport authorities this type of authority to engage or enter into a contract will allow them certain types of negotiating authority that they do not currently have as it's so situated?
Correct.
Regardless of the agreement.
Correct. You summed it up. That was
Okay,
perfect.
good, 'cause I mean, you can, okay, so.
That was perfect.
This gives them more flexibility
Yes,
to
ma'am.
enter into those type of agreements,
That's correct.
which ultimately, for those airport authorities, will be a cost saving
Correct.
for them.
Correct. And allow them to grow at the same time.
And allow, well, in your opinion, them to grow
Correct.
at the same time.
Correct.
But it also allows them to then seek out different types of funding to assist in the construct or whatever the development or redevelopment for that authority that it may
Correct.
be in need for. See,
that's
I didn't
right.
have time to read. It's very rarely that I don't read a bill.
No, that
But
was-
I didn't have time to treat this one, and when I don't have time to treat something, it's so much talk going on.
No, that was
And I
perfect.
know I'm not smart at all. So, but okay, so so it's
Yeah.
coming to me now.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. It's a good opportunity for every airport in the state because at the end of the day, it saves the consumers money because it saves taxpayers money, it saves cities money, and it provides those airports the opportunity to
And
grow.
My last point to you is: have you spoken with? I've heard certain cities mentioned, but have you at least at best spoken with the bigger, at least the larger airports that this will have an impact on to get some input from them?
They are all supportive of this, as is the aviation
That
authority of
wasn't
the smaller
That
airports.
wasn't my question. Because when I go back to my seat, I'm going to call the CEO of the Birmingham Airport.
Sure.
I asked you, had you spoken?
Me personally, I have not
You
spoken to
speaking
them.
with someone and then saying they support it are two different things. And that's how we get jammed up down here, because we have legislators who come to us to ask us to support bills. I know I have some in my delegation, and they will say, this is what's good for the Jefferson County, and I've done this and I've done that. But, and there's a big but yet you have not spoken with any of the entities that it impacts, and then ultimately when we vote yay, we get calls. So that's why I only asked you, have you spoken yourself with any of those? And the answer was no, so I get that. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I will say this. I do know for a fact they are supportive of that because the group that I'm working with, they have told them this. Also, your CEO of the Birmingham Airport is a very nice guy. I had dinner with him about 3 months ago, touring around the state.
When you say
Told him I said hi.
When your folks said, that's fine, I know his wife is my link sister.
They're great
that kind
people.
Of stuff don't work on me. I'm a star in my own mind too. Everybody in this room is a superstar in their own mind. But I do want to come back because, Mr. Speaker, I do want to ask one more question about this bill. I'm just trying to get some clarity.
The lady's time has expired. Question for the body now is passage of HB 87. Clerk will unlock machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock machine. Court of votes. 98 ayes, 2 nays, 1 abstention. HB 87 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
On page 4 of the calendar, House Bill number 15 by Representative Lipscomb relating to the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a bill that we passed last year with no issues. It was simply delayed to such an extent upstairs that it wasn't able to make it all the way through. And basically what it does is it codifies something that we're already doing, which is issuing permits to supply black bass in the Coosa River Basin for the purposes of fishing tournaments, for sustenance fishing, that sort of thing. What these individuals do, being that they are municipalities and or fishing tournament people, is they still have to do their due diligence. They still have to get the specified state bass from state licensed fisheries, and they still have to fill out all the same paperwork. This just says that they shall get that permit in order to do their function as they'd like to do. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask for the BIR.
That is questions, adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Court votes 99 ayes, 1 nay. BR has been adopted.
Mr. Speaker, final passage.
That is questions, final passage of HB 15. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Court to vote 100 ayes, 0 nays. HB 15 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call the next bill.
On page 5 of the calendar, House Bill number 10 by Representative Pringle relating to crimes and offenses.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Currently, we're working on an amendment up here, and with that, I'd like to carry the bill over to call of the chair.
That is request, carry the bill over, call the chair. All in favor, aye. Any opposed? The bill has been carried over. Clerk, call the next bill.
On page 5 of the calendar, House Bill number 81 with substitute by Representative Treadaway relating to pardons and paroles.
Chairman Treadaway, you are recognized.
Thank you, sir. What this bill is real simple. Young man came to me that was a victim of child molestation over a period of years. He was a Sunday school teacher, Boy Scout leader, and took this young boy across state lines along with my son and other children. My son was not violated. That's why I'm standing here today. But this bill, the reason it alarmed me, I was asked to write a letter in opposition for this individual to get a pardon. The governor also wrote a letter in opposition. What happened was at the bottom of her letter, there was a little paragraph that said, if he was to receive this pardon, please do not allow him to get off the sex register list. That got me to thinking, so I checked with LSA and found out that if somebody receives a pardon, even after molesting a child over many years, could possibly come off the sex register. The current law already states that an individual committing this type of crime cannot receive early parole. This bill simply says that they cannot receive a pardon for this type of crime. It's narrowly defined for this type of crime. This young man father came into his life, a stepfather at 5, groomed them till 10, and repeatedly sodomized and molested this young man for several years. I was shocked when I was asked to go before the parole board by his family, which I did attend. And it was eye-opening to find out what I found out. So this bill simply does that. You cannot get a pardon after being convicted of a crime against a child like this. With that, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Van. First person to speak on the BR.
Hey,
Thank you for the recognition. Listen, Treddy, talk to me about the bill. I know you and I have talked about the reasoning, and I know it's easy for when you hear those types of stories, because you know I'm trying to get a bill passed for a man to be required to have a vasectomy and a castration for rape and incest. So just talk to me about this bill.
well, I just explained it, but I mean, it really just addressed those individuals who have been convicted of a Class A crime of sodomy, child molestation on a child, they will not be allowed to apply or get a pardon. Currently, as in this case, this individual brought this young man who's now a naval officer, he's married, he's had to show up, drive hundreds of miles here to attend his hearing, and he was denied, but he can bring this family back before the board every 2 years. And I just think that's wrong.
So let me do this. And again, this is for my own consumption. This is a very serious piece of legislation. And anytime I was thankful, one of the first pieces of legislation, major pieces of legislation, I had the opportunity to sponsor after we did a full overhaul of the Uniform Sex Offender Bill here in the state. I think in 2010, it originated in the House. Cam Ward was the sponsor, and then the next year I had the pleasure of making several amendments to that piece of legislation. For it's probably one of my proudest pieces of legislation that I've sponsored. My concern, and I need you to hear me, and I mentioned this to you, continues to be an issue that I have with the Pardons and Parole Board, period. Not just on pardons, but on, on paroles, but pardons. And I'm hoping that you, just as you're fighting this cause, will fight with us. Well, let me not say us, me, because most of the time I stand alone. I'm not just the black sheep. I'm beyond the black sheep in the party, and I'm okay with that. I don't have a bridge yet that's been burned that I care enough that I cross back over it, so I'm good. But I guess for me, and what I see time and time again when I'm representing individuals who are trying to get paroled, where they have been convicted of crimes that from 10, 15 years ago that were not heinous crimes, and they can't even get a pardon, that grieves me. My other thing is, if we set a precedent on setting a specific or defining a sex offender as one of those that will never, ever be able to get pardoned, the only problem I have with it is anything under the law, there are people that are innocent, that have been incarcerated, that have been accused of crimes, even sodomy, even rape, or even some type of violent crime against a child that may just have not been true. I know such an individual that is sitting in the penal system here in the state of Alabama that I believe with every fiber of my being should not be there. I'm hoping one day that when he is finally able to get paroled, which he should have been paroled, that he would have an opportunity to seek a pardon if need be. So that is the only problem that I have with this piece of legislation. Again, I started this conversation off with the words vasectomy and castration. So you know I'm with you. But I just am concerned about other people who just may not have been that person to actually have committed such an offense, not having a shot at being paroled, and then we have others. So what happens now with all of the ones who have been paroled and they've had an opportunity to be paroled that are sex offenders? So what happens with them? So we punish the remainder, and I get what you're saying. So, and any time a bill like this comes up, these are questions that, regardless of how you feel, you have to ask.
You asking me?
Yeah, you, Treddy.
You do know, I know you've mentioned parole several times, but you do know in current law, an individual convicted of this type of crime under current law is not allowed parole. You do know that. That's in the current state law. I'm going to read it real quick.
But
it says, any person convicted of a sex offense involving a child defined in section Class A or B felony shall not be eligible for parole. This bill simply adds pardon.
I meant parole, the pardon, and I was getting the words, and I told you pardon all along, and I even just said it's
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't hear you, but
yeah, I did.
So this bill deals with this type of crime.
Pardon, I got that.
Pardon.
I got that.
Currently, if that was to happen to this individual or any other individual who has sodomized and molested a child brutally for several years, will also be able to come off the sex register and continue their career in a certain field that this person was also trying to do.
So then, but again, then that still leads me back to the pardons and parole.
But your issue is with the Pardon and Parole Board, not with the bill, correct? I mean, that's what I'm gathering.
For the most part. I think I said that too. But this is the story of our lives where you don't listen to me when I'm talking. So anyway, I get that. I'm okay with that too. But, so the pardons and, and I keep mixing the two. Let me just say pardon. We're dealing with a pardon. So at question is the young man or the person who committed this crime upon those individuals that you speak of, he was up for pardon.
Correct.
And it was denied.
Correct.
And it takes me back to what I was saying. There are so many people in my community. I have clients that come to my office, or we have clients that are denied parole for even crimes that are not as heinous as this crime. That's the only thing about it that gives me pause when this type of issue comes up. And it's tough because it is a child. And again, I have been one of the ones, I think for 2 years, I think two years of my legislative tenure here that I have sponsored legislation and had passed out legislation for the Uniform Sex Offender Act. But and you've worked with the Pardons and Parole Board on this?
I worked with LSA. I have not heard any.
Oh, you didn't go to the agency?
I went on behalf of this young man. I was there. They
Oh,
seemed,
but
they seemed
you
to
didn't,
concur.
you didn't
It was
speak
a,
with
it was
the
a
agency.
unanimous
Hold up.
denial.
No. Not the man who always tells me.
Travis, are you having fun?
No, Mr. Speaker. Your chairman. You have not spoken with the department that you are. Don't go rub it on your chest and feel it for your phone. I'm not calling you anymore. Treddy.
Promise?
So you have not spoken with Pardons.
The lady's time has expired. The chair recognizes the lady from Macon, Representative Warren.
Oh, sorry, there's somebody coming.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman yield.
Yes, ma'am.
I think what you're doing is great, but I have a problem with it. I've been working with a man over 6 years, a young man over 6 years. He was dating a woman, living with her, with children, and her mother. Her mother really was trying to get his attention over her daughter, and it didn't work. So she went and told the kids to say that he was bothering them sexually. He was arrested. He was put in jail. He had a court-appointed attorney. On the day of his trial, his attorney came in and told him Man, the judge is mad today. He's giving all kinds of sentences. I'm going to advise you to plead guilty. Plead guilty, and that's going to be a relief for you. He pleaded guilty.
To what crime?
The child sexual molestation, whatever it was that they had him there for. And after that, the girlfriend came to him and told him, well, you know, Mama was just mad and she shouldn't have done that because she knew you didn't do that. So she admitted that he was innocent. But there he was with a sexual offense on him that he did not do. As a matter of fact, I had gotten it to the point of the DA trying to go back and have a new trial. But the DA died in the process. So what he's dealing with every day, and his problem is always trying to find a place to live, because you have to be so distant from a school or where children are and everything. So my thing to you is, in a case like this, is there any way that you can make some modifications that in a case like this that it's perfectly obvious that this guy didn't do this, but he has this sexual case following him, and he's always everywhere he finds to live, he has to move because it's near a close. So all I'm saying is, I agree with what you're saying. I don't think that they should really be part, if they've done it. But for those who are walking around here with crimes that the public, everybody knows they didn't do, but that's where they are. That's how they label it now.
And I think what you're referring to doesn't rise to this level of Class A, B, and that type of situation. I think those might be a lower class. This only talks about Class A, B, conviction against a child. So.
Well, I can't tell you what he got. I know he was convicted. He went to prison, and it just came out after the fact that the mama was just low down and dirty.
Would it surprise you to get the individual in this case also says he didn't do it?
Oh, well, you know, I think
I've done this job a lot of years. And
the kids even admit that he didn't do it, you know. But like I say, the DA was getting ready to go back and try him again, but she died in the process. So I have not, you know, carried it any farther, because we're just always trying to help him get a job, help him find a place to stay. Sure. And it's just, I think, and there are instances where when we deny a person the opportunity to have a pardon in a situation where it's evident that they weren't guilty, are we doing them justice?
You know, there's also a process to clear that name. This is a pardon as long as the conviction is still a conviction against you. It doesn't take away any of your appeal process or anything to clear your name, which then makes this bill moot. I mean, it's not going to be effective to individuals like that. We're talking about folks who have been convicted, who have stood up in a courtroom and on a Class A and B and have admitted, or a jury has found guilty. That's all.
So like I said, his attorney just told him to plead guilty. And he thought that was going to be, you know, again, you know, these court-appointed attorneys, they don't want to work. They don't want to do the research. And he just told him, you know, plead guilty. You'll get it easy. And then he didn't realize all the ramifications that was going to go along with him pleading guilty to a crime that he knew he didn't commit.
He still has that process he's going through now to clear his name, correct?
Well, I haven't had a chance to work with him, because really I hadn't seen him in about 2 years now. And like I say, after the DA died that I was working with, because she was fully convinced, because I think the girl had told the DA and everything that he didn't do it. And she was going to take him back to court, but he never did. And like I said, when you're dealing with guys like that, they don't have the wherewithal to do and to find out what they need. They just live with it. They just accept it. And that's why, you know, I was trying to work with him, because I said, this is something that you can't accept, because he said he had no idea that it was going to follow him all his life. He didn't have any idea that he couldn't live around schools. He just took his attorney's advice and pleaded guilty to a case that he knew he didn't do. But he said the way the attorney had explained it to him, he would get a lesser sentence by pleading than going before a jury and a judge to let his case be heard. So, I mean, it's just, like I say, I see what you're trying to do, but in this situation, it really just disturbed me because, I mean, I don't want to just say, okay, the doors are closed and you're going to have to live with this for the rest of your life because you can't get a pardon. Like I say, it's a good bill. I mean, I have.
Unless he clears himself of this type of crime, he should stay on the sex register. That, 100% believe that. I don't know anybody in 31 years in law enforcement that takes a lawyer's advice to go up and plead guilty to this type of crime. This is the worst of the worst.
So what you're saying, if he can go to court,
if he can, there's an appeal process to clear his name, this won't apply. But as long as he's a convicted of a Class A B, and this sounds like it's probably a lower felony, maybe a C or a D, but we're talking a Class A or B. We're talking about sodomization and rape of a child.
No, it wasn't. He didn't rape. She just said he tried to mess with him, something like that. You know, just enough to get enough attention.
It's not going to apply here. This
To
is
get it.
Class A or B. It's the worst of the worst committed on our children.
Well, I'll go back and try to work with him on that. Like I said, I was working with him, and then after the DA died, I just didn't go back and start all over again because she was convinced that he needed a new trial, and she was going to do that. But like I said, she died in the process, and it's just the issue of every time he finds a place to stay, he has to move because he's not 3 miles or whatever distance he has to be from where children are and to dealing with it. So I didn't want to. This bill tells me, okay, Peb, you got to give up on him. But you say if it's only
A and B.
only Class A and B.
The worst of the worst committed on our children, very narrowly defined. We've got to protect them. And
Okay.
That's what this bill does.
Well, I'll go and I'll call him and I'll just let him know that we got to get started on that again, because if he doesn't get started on it, he's going to be in that situation for the rest of his life. Thank you. Okay.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Coleman, Representative Shedd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. I just want to say thank you for sponsoring the legislation and caring about the children of Alabama, that hopefully this would prevent horrific crimes toward children in this state in the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Representative Shirey. Be the fourth person to speak on the BR.
Representative, I just want to thank you also for bringing this bill. You said this is the worst of the worst.
That's right.
These victims, these families have to deal with this for the rest of their lives. It's only fair that if the person is convicted, that they should serve their full sentence. Thank you for bringing the bill.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body now is passage of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machines and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 101 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Chairman Treadway.
Mr. Speaker, if there's no other questions, I move for final passage. I'm sorry, I got a sub.
She here to explain the sub.
All the sub does is name this bill after the young man that was molested during the most vulnerable times of his life, from 10 years old to 16 years old, and that names it after him, Aaron's Law. That's all it does is name it after the young man.
Clerk, see the amendment.
Sub.
You've heard the explanation of the sub. Representative Van, you want to speak on the sub about changing it to the child's name? Question for the body is adoption of the sub. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 102 ayes, 0 nays. Sub has been adopted. Chairman Treadway.
If there's no other questions, Mr. Speaker, I move for final passage.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson. That is question for the body. Is final passage of HB 81. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 100 ayes, 2 abstentions. HB 81 has passed.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 5 of the calendar, House Bill number 42 with substitute by Representative Givens relating to crimes and offenses.
Representative Givens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill, under existing law, trafficking in the first degree is a Class A felony, which is 20 years. So what this bill does is change it, as long as it's someone that is 18 years old or younger, to a mandatory life sentence for human trafficking.
Chair recognizes the lady from Morgan, Chairwoman Collins.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. I just want to thank you for bringing this. Several years ago, one of the representatives that's a senator now, Marika Coleman, and I worked on some of these bills, and I think it's so important. I know I've been to the movie that's talked about it, and I think the more attention we draw to this, maybe the better it will improve the situation. And so I just want to thank you for bringing this bill.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Morgan, Representative Yarborough.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to say thank you for bringing the bill. My family and I have done a lot of work in this area as well. I've been blessed to work with a group called Hope for Justice, and so this is a very meaningful topic that I've watched others in my life walk out to serve and help rescue people. So it's very near and dear to our heart. I had a chance to go to do some pretty crazy adventures to raise money and stuff for this, so a similar concept. So just thank you for bringing it and for speaking for those who can't always speak for themselves.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Cavan.
Thank you. I think I received a call from the media a few weeks ago about your bill, because I too have a bill that is a trafficking bill, and it was pre-filed, and I certainly hope that my bill will be given attention, just as your bill has been given attention. I don't have a problem with it. I think even in my comments, I commended you on your efforts, but I do feel that my bill is just as important. And I do believe it should see the light of day to be placed on the Judiciary Committee calendar. I think I spoke with the chairman. I think last week he said he liked the bill, but I noticed I don't think it's on the agenda for this week. And it bothers me that we go and pre-file these bills that we feel are good bills, and we get them out the chute day one, and then we get just 2 or 3 weeks into the year, and our bills still have not hit some of the committee meetings. I'm still perplexed by that, and I feel that Democrats have just as good of bills as those who are bringing these bills that are Republicans.
I agree. I've voted for many Democrat bills.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, here again, I just wanted to make that comment. Not speaking for anybody else, I'm only speaking for myself, but I just noticed time and time again, even with your bill, we see great bills that come from the other side that efforts go into almost the same and similar type of bills, but yet our bills don't start popping up until a month later almost, and some of these bills have been pre-filed. And that bothers me. And I've been here 14 years.
Okay, I'd love to look at your bill after today.
Well, I don't need, you can look at, you
Yeah.
just go online, but I don't need you to validate it. If you want to look at it, you can do it. I'm not here, and I've not been one, I'll let a bill fly. Because I don't need anybody in this room to validate a bill. And what I have said about everybody in this Democratic Party, whether we get along or not, every Democrat in here is learned. And when I say learned, I mean not one Democrat in here does not have a degree or multiple degrees or some kind of certification beyond a certification, an expertise. They are qualified. And they are just as intelligent and just as smart as anybody who take this microphone. And I may not always agree with them, but I do give them their respect and the accolades that they deserve for the qualifications that they have.
As do I.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 101, one abstention, the BIR is adopted.
Okay, and I do have 2 amendments, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to open it up for co-sponsors. That's a request.
Do you have one committee substitute? The chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Mr. Rogers.
I was reading, I hadn't read the bill, but what got me was a certain offense on certain conditions. What certain offenses and what certain conditions? So it says certain conditions and certain offenses.
Okay.
Just break that down to me real with certain.
Okay, human trafficking, so trafficking someone 18 years old or under for sex trade or for slave trade, to take them to a workplace. So those are the conditions. They're 18 years old or under, and it's either sex trafficking or labor trafficking for workforce.
Why'd you hang them for everything? I mean, why you got certain conditions? It's a crime either way. It's a crime, period. So why you say certain conditions and certain offenses? See right here. I'm sure you're talking about.
And that's a good question, but the certain conditions are they're 18 years old or under. Now, if they were 19 years old, they will not qualify under this bill, that it's a mandatory life sentence.
I thought it was already a crime for 18.
It is a crime, but it's a Class A felony, and that's 20 years. This bill would change it to be a life sentence.
Okay. I'm not even fight it, but I'm just concerned about the word certain. I mean,
Right.
You pick it out certain thing when it's a crime or it's a bad crime, period.
Okay, and the other thing would be if the one that is trafficking is, say, 18 years old, then it's and that's in one of the amendments, then that is considered, if it's, let's say it's a male, and he's 18 years old, and he's trafficking an 18 or a 17 or whatever, younger, then if he's 18 years old, then he would not get mandatory life sentence. It would be a Class A felony for him. It's 20 years.
Hey, I don't want to give no break either. If anybody does, I don't care if they're 16. a person where I feel about it, I don't care if it's 16 or 15. I mean, if they're doing it, they ought to get punished. But what I was concerned about, what you explained the word certain.
Certain, and I understand.
It means that you were excluding some people, and some people you were including. So I didn't want. If it's a good bill, I want everybody included.
Right, and it's just the age factor there.
Okay. So in other words, if a 15-year-old, if a 21-year-old get a 15-year-old to do something for him, a 15-year-old will get away clean.
The 15-year-old is the victim, but the 21-year-old is the trafficker, and he would go to life. He would go to prison for life.
Okay. What I was worried about was that 21-year-old, 60, they go get they do this kind of stuff. They go get 13, 14, 15-year-old kids to do something for them. Even though they're controlling that 15-year-old, but he's 15. All right, so he gets away clean. I want it stronger than you got it. That's what I'm trying to tell you, because I don't want anybody to get away with it if it ain't done.
Right, and if
I know if where they do the thing now is that you get these young kids to do the crime for them. I don't want them to get away with that. So in other words, I know they can't. You're not gonna punish a 15-year-old. Either I'm pulling all the strings. And he's 25, 21, 20, but he's pulling the string, getting this 15-year-old to do something for him or her. Well, I think there ought to be something in there to not let anybody get away with doing this.
Right, and that is something that we are looking into, and we're going to go after each layer of this and those are called the John. I've learned. I've been in some training.
Okay, now you getting hip. Now you been out on the street something, haven't you?
Right.
Talk about the John, you know what you're talking about now. Come on, talk about it.
So we are going to do, like an onion, peel this back one layer at the time, and we're going to go after the next layer and the next. And I don't know what Representative Gavan's bill is, and I will be looking at that so I can see, and maybe hers is something that addresses this.
Well, you see what I'm getting at, right?
I do.
Because a real crime lord, crime boss, will go recruit these young kids to do something for them because they're less center for him or her.
Right.
So I wanted to be extensive enough so that if a 21 or 20-year-old go get a young kid to do something, ought to be some ramifications for them going recruiting a younger person to do the crime for them.
Right, and
I don't want a crime like a moral turpitude. That kind of crime to me is the most offensive crime you can commit. But I got daughters. I had daughters.
Right.
They still got daughters. They're grown now. But I wouldn't want that to happen to them, to any child of an age, anybody. So I want to make sure that it's extensive enough that anybody, young or old, can be prosecuted or something done to them. I want to be able to get away clean, because they'll do that.
Right, and I know one of the senators has a couple of bills on human trafficking as well. So hopefully with everybody's bills, we're going to clean up some of this, and I'll be looking at his as well. And if there's not one, then I'll do another bill. But that is something we want to go after, is what is termed the John.
Something I want you to go at also. What about these guys that get these big old tractor trailer trucks? Go pick up these girls from over in Mexico or somewhere and bring them in for 10, 11, 12 years old, load them up, and bring them to brothels. We need to do something about that also.
And absolutely, and this will for that, because if they catch the driver of this 18-wheeler, he will go to prison for life.
Okay. I just haven't read the bill. I just got synopsis, but I want to have some. If we're gonna pass it, and pass with some teeth in it to do something about it.
Right.
Because they go load these big 18-wheelers up with the young girl from Mexico, from Guatemala, wherever, they load them up, go take them on the street, park that big old truck. They go tell them, come on, they go in the truck.
Right, in the sleepers.
And so if you're gonna do something, let's do it all the way. I want to half do it, and leave any ramification in the holes that we can't get to it anyway. If you're gonna do it, let's do it.
Okay. I agree with you.
All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Moore from Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative, will you yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on my colleague talk about she want her bill to come up. I think since 2010, all the bills I filed, they don't even put them in a committee talking about letting them come up since 2010. Then I was told the only way we can have a bill, we got to have a good bill. But that good bill, I had one last year called sales tax off of food, which was an extremely good bill. It was such a good bill that it was taken away from me. But I just wanted to piggyback because she wants her bills to come up. We all want our bills to come up. But my one question to you is that it says that it's going to require an increase in local funding. So where is that increase in funding going to come from? And are we able to have those monies in the general funds that would help locally for you to carry out this bill?
I'm hoping so, and once this passes and it's signed into law, it would have to have a line item in the general fund budget, because whether it's Department of Corrections or, I don't know.
So where are we going to get the money from? You plan to vote on that lottery bill? Because we're going to have it back. So maybe we get some of that funding out of gaming and out of lottery to be able to do that. I know quite a few people. I don't know if you voted and you don't even have to tell me.
I did.
Because I want to get you in trouble. Because you get in a lot of trouble if you aren't obedient. But, and that, if you say that, but I was just wondering when I saw that it's going to require additional funding. And I know I talk about where I live because I know where I live that the burden on law enforcement is already so great with everything that's going on with gun control or lack of gun control in the state of Alabama. And when you're talking about other crimes and offenses that we intend for our law enforcement people to carry out, we need more people serving in whether it's local police or troopers or sheriffs. We need more people, and even within the departments, you need additional personnel for processing and things of that nature. But since that kind of caught my eye to see that we will need additional funding, and it said of undetermined amount of money. So that undetermined amount of money might be monies that we could afford. It might be something that we can't afford. And I know we'll look at it, but if we can't afford it, what avenues do we have available to us to be able to make sure that those monies are in place? Because we just can't continue to pass bills and I notice one thing we see a lot of, that the cost is undetermined, always undetermined. But by the time we get down to the budget, we may or may not have those funds, but we have already allocated that undetermined amount of money to be taken care of in the budget, and we don't have many avenues from which to get that money so that we can carry it out. So it could be a possibility that enforcement might be delayed because we don't have the funding for it. So had you thought about any avenues where we could possibly look to make sure that once this bill is passed, that we're able to enforce it?
I have not at this point. I, like you, voted for the gaming because I feel like there would be some funds there to take care of this. I know Aaliyah did a lot of work on this, and looking at the dollar figures and those that are in prison now serving their 20-year terms, and that's something that is, it's factored in right now. And of course, they have to serve their 20-year terms. I am in hopes that once they learn that Alabama is taking this seriously and is not playing games with human trafficking any longer, they will avoid Alabama. But I'm also in hopes that other states will follow suit, that Alabama will be number one in this and be the leader, and the other states will follow suit. And we can work to clean this up because it's just growing. 15 was the minimum age. Now it's 13 to 14. And it's homeless girls and some young boys, homeless,
Well,
runaways.
I live in where we have children missing every day. A lot of times the police won't even give them a second thought to look at them. But I just want to make sure that, somewhere along the lines, we could probably advocate together that the Senate passes the gaming bill and the lottery bill, and that whenever it goes to conference or whatever point in time, we're able to advocate for additional funding to be there for a project like this. Even though we just passed an airport bill that might have me, if I'm trafficking, I could make a contract with an airport right now and build me 10 hangars where I could bring in young people for trafficking, and I could take some of y'all children out for trafficking in other countries. I could bring all my drugs in, and by the time you catch on to that it's coming from my hangar, the deal would have been done. So I just hope that we have the funding for it, because that caught my eye. And I know a lot of times before we pass the budget, we have a lot of bills that come up that have funds allocated to them, and it's always an undetermined amount of money. But if you look at all of the line items that we currently have to allocate monies and make cuts because we don't have enough money, yet and still we're still adding things that need to be done and ought to be done. But I just hope that would be something that we put on the front burner, that we all advocate, that if the lottery and the gaming bill is passed, that they will allow us to dip in there and get us a small percentage so that we can take care of business like this. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Question for the body's adoption of the substitute by judiciary. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. The substitute's adopted. Chair now recognizes Representative Gavan from Jefferson.
As I was listening to you, and I guess because I've been working on a bill that deals with human trafficking, I listened to you, and your bill now gives me some concern because you talk about the homeless girls, but a lot of trafficking doesn't start just by someone being snatched.
Right, some of these girls.
It doesn't start by someone already being a prostitute. It doesn't just start by someone snatching someone from the airport. And that's what bothers me when we bring these type of bills and then someone begins to be the queen and king of a bill. Jack Williams, before he left the House, he had become the king of human trafficking, and although our colleague mentioned some legislation a few years ago that she worked with someone on, Jack Williams would come in here and roll off a human trafficking bill, and it would roll out just like that. Nobody would question it. Nobody said anything. And then when that person that was mentioned brought it, it had to be dissected, reconstructed, deconstructed, rewritten. It went from just a thesis to a dissertation to a defense of a dissertation, to the point I almost didn't want to vote on it. But until we deal with how some of this trafficking starts, to get to some of how a lot of our girls become missing outside of those that are snatched, outside of those that were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or that may be waywardly, or a prostitute, or a worldly woman, as some would call it. nothing's going to shift out. 80 to 90% of human trafficking now starts at the home.
Right.
It starts with the internet. It starts with the cell phone. And that's what my bill does. And I hope my bill gets in the House Judiciary Committee real soon. The chairman said that he looked at it and he thought it was a good bill. But I need my bill to come up because I feel my bill is just as good, if not better, than this bill that you brought in. And it's giving me great consternation to stand here today that you are able to get this bill up and out. And I know you're in a good Republican Party, and that's fine. I got that. I understand how it works. I've been here 14 years. But I certainly want my bill, HB 79, to see the light of day real soon, as I was promised that it would. And I don't know if it's on the Judiciary Committee for tomorrow or not, but certainly I hope the chairman, and I'm going to go talk to the chairman in just a moment to make sure that, talk with him to ensure that my bill gets up and out and ready to be on the agenda. And I don't have a problem with legislation. You can vote it up. I only had maybe one bill that, I think my monuments bill didn't come out of committee, and I think that's the only bill I've ever had that I've cared about moving or pushing that was voted down in committee. I lost one bill on the BRR about 4 or 5 years ago, and I got it right back up like 2 days, and it was an alcohol bill. And that's when alcohol bills used to be real tough. Alcohol bills are not as tough anymore. But I want my bill, my legislation, to see the light of day, just as this one. Because again, until you deal with where some of this trafficking starts, you can write this bill and you can keep folks in prison. See, we pass a lot of bills to keep people in prison. So hurrah, hurrah. So you kept somebody in prison for life, but what did you do to stop the trafficking or to begin a process of getting to the trafficker? Because I don't see that in the bill. All you're doing is punishing someone who has trafficked.
Right, and I hope for there to be more bills that addresses each layer of human trafficking.
Well, I certainly hope there are too. Because again, we're just, again, creating, this a class what felony?
Class A.
Class A. So we're just, once again, and I think one of my colleagues has said this a number of times, and some folks frown, you know, we bring these bills and we continue to have these bills where we are locking folks up for life, but what are we really doing to curtail the crime? So it's for naught at the end of the day. Because we're not getting to the root of a situation. We're thinking the person is the root, not necessarily the person. Sometimes you have to go into how, it's just like you have people who study criminal minds and the analyses of crimes. So, you know, here again, but I see how this is going to be turning out because I'm hearing you say you're going to be bringing us. I think I have 2 bills. And so we need to bring out a crown to now have, again, someone who's going to be moving these bills, then that's fine. Like I said, nobody did it better than Jack Williams. He had more human trafficking to be a man that I've ever seen human trafficking. They were rolling out just like this. So again, I'm going to talk with the chairman and see if I can get my bill up on the agenda.
Thank you.
Question for the body's final passage of HB 42 is substituted. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote, 102 yeas. HB 42 is given final passage. Clerk will, congratulations. Clerk will call the next bill on the calendar.
Well, thank you, but we want to open it for co-sponsors.
Okay, we have a request for co-sponsors. Clerk will open the machine for co-sponsors. Clerk will lock the machine and record the co-sponsors. Clerk can call the next bill on the calendar.
Thank you.
On page 6 of the calendar, House Bill number 125 with substitute by Representative Hulsey relating to crimes and offenses.
The chair recognizes Representative Hulsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, HB 125 would make it unlawful for a member of clergy to engage in sexual acts with individuals under the age of 19, irrespective of consent, and provide for penalties. With that, Mr. Speaker, I move the BIR.
Chair recognizes Representative Sellers from Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Will the lady yield?
Of course.
I am not opposed to the fact of making sure that our children are protected. But how did you pick out just clergy? According to some of the conversation earlier from my colleague, Representative Treadaway, he talked about an incident to where that person was a Sunday school teacher and a Boy Scout leader. So how do you just pick out just clergy? Clergy are not the only ones that commit these kind of crimes or situations or offenses. And so how did you come up with just clergy?
So I'm not in disagreement with you that things like that should be in place, but for today and the purpose of this bill, I specifically wanted to focus here. We tried some additional avenues and they made it a little bit more complicated, and this has been very constituent driven for me, and so I am simply trying to stick to the topic that has been brought to me to bring a solution to the table.
And you have more organizations or businesses or places where people gather that oversee young children, such as teachers, schools, community centers. Why are they not listed in this? Why not teachers? They see children every day, and it happens.
So this law is actually mimicking a law that we currently have that does regulate our teachers. So that already is in place and exists and has for a little while. I'll tell you what, I'm more than happy to work with you on another bill that addresses the other areas of interest that do concern you. I agree with you that they are important to address. I don't have a problem with that. I just don't want to attach it to this. I want this to be very clear and standalone.
So what was the basis of this to initiate, to pick out just clergy?
Sure, not a problem. So to be quite honest with you, this was brought to me by some individuals that live in my district who were very aware of some really tough situations that had gone on. So initially, it was brought to my attention that she's a young adult now, was seeking some justice for her experience and was unable to do so. As this kind of got out into the world and people started seeing it, sadly, I've had so many phone calls and emails and face-to-face meetings where I am hearing story after story after story, and they break my heart. So at the end of the day, it is a problem, unfortunately, and it's one that does need to be addressed, and that's all I'm trying to do here today, sir.
So, and again, I've heard the same stories from school teachers, from girls baseball coach, softball coaches, girls basketball coaches, bowling team coaches, Boy Scout leaders, Girl Scout leaders. I just can't wrap around why we single out clergy when there are many more other areas that's probably more, it happens more often than even with clergy?
I will not argue those points with you, and I will reiterate that I'm happy to work on another standalone bill to address those issues. I will say that if you do have individuals that are reaching out to you and saying this is happening with coaches at schools, that is covered. It is illegal today in the state to do that. If you work for school, if you're a school employee, and that doesn't just, it covers both public and private schools and church schools. So that does exist, and they have an avenue for justice.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Representative Sellers.
Chair recognizes Representative Woods from Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative, I just want to say I appreciate you bringing this bill today. And as the last speaker mentioned, there's no one bill that's going to address every bad scenario that could happen with a child. And certainly when we talk about clergy, these are people of trust, people that we have entrusted with our children, just like so many other people of authority. And so, we need to do everything we can to address this situation, regardless of where they are, who it is. And so I just want to say I appreciate you bringing the bill and look forward to voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Jackson from Clark.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. I know y'all thinking I'm coming to speak against the bill. No. There's some wolves in sheep clothing. But I want to get all the wolves and not the sheep. There's some bad actors everywhere. And just to pinpoint the clergy, I'm going to say, why not the finance director? What about the deacon or the steward? These are issues. I know you're personalizing an issue that probably happened in your community. There's a preacher.
Happened all over this state.
I'm talking about.
This was brought to me by an individual who is a victim. Yes.
Thank you. See, this is what is so significant. And most of the legislation that we pass are personal. It comes. Somebody has talked to us about something.
Sure.
And they want changes. But why don't we just make it up, like the preacher said, across the board, not just singleizing just the clergy. They're wolves, and I agree. I preach against it. But I just want to say this one thing, and I'm grateful. We as a people in this state want to do what's right for the state of Alabama, want to do what's right for the children in our state. I have a resolution. I want the governor said the state is a pro-life state. I have a resolution to put a moratorium on the death penalty. And I asked the people of this house to think about that. Will we pro-life? Let us think about life, not birth. If we're going to protect children, let us protect all citizens that are going through. We got an issue in prison right now. People are dying in prison. People being murdered in prison. So we're going to send them to prison to be killed. And so all life is important, sacred in the sight of God. We're all born and made in his image. So let's not pick and choose what things we want to do. But I'm supporting because I think all of them ought to be taken and put on a cross somewhere. Not crucified, but just public spectacle. These people have perpetrated their call, saying one thing and doing the opposite. Wolves in sheep clothing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Franklin. Representative Keel be the fourth person to speak on the BR.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hulsey, I appreciate this bill. I have worked on staff at church before, and staff people at churches are should be held to a higher level of accountability to the average person. I mean, it's a safe place to be at church, And when you're a staff member at church, people trust you.
Yeah.
People trust their preacher. And so, you know, that person should be held to a higher level of accountability. I believe this bill does that. I appreciate you bringing it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body now is passage of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 102 ayes, 0 nays. HBR has passed. Representative Hulsey.
Mr. Speaker, HB 125 has a committee sub, and that committee sub basically just clarifies the definition of clergy member using the definition of clergyman in the Alabama Rules of Evidence, Rule 505. And I would move to adopt HB 125 as substituted. Am I good?
So you heard the explanation for the committee sub. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Van, to speak on the committee sub.
Lee, you missed me on the last part. What did you say?
All right, so basically what we did is we amended this to clarify the definition of clergy member, and we used the definition of clergyman in the Alabama Rules of Evidence, Rule 505.
Okay. I should have brought my phone so I could have pulled it up right quick. Do you have what that?
I have the definition if you would
Thank
like
I
for me to read
appreciate it.
that.
I
Absolutely.
didn't bring my phone. I would have pulled it up right quick.
Yes, so it says a duly ordained, licensed, or commissioned minister, pastor, priest, rabbi, or practitioner of any bona fide established church or religious organization, or any person who regularly, as a vocation, devotes a substantial portion of his or her time and abilities to the service of his or her church or religious organization.
So, all right. Okay. Tell me the definition of a clergy.
I don't have that in this bill.
I'm trying to get the definite, tell me I'm just trying to get the difference between clergy versus clergyman.
I cannot answer that question for you. Because we're addressing clergy members,
So
not
you're-
just the word clergy.
So clergy member. Okay, so and that still takes me back to what is the difference of clergy versus clergy member? Because would they not be operating the same if they are a member of the clergy? Because I define everyone that's a member of the clergy, I would define them as prescribed in what you just said. So I'm here, listen, I'm only here to try to get the clarification for myself.
Sure.
So if someone asks me, I can speak as intelligent as possible about the legislation. I don't believe in bringing legislation because one person came to me. I've said that for 14 years. I always research. Now, if it's an issue that is broad enough that impacts a wide range or a critical mass of people, I'm here for it. And I've said this for 14 years. I do not believe in bringing bills because someone came to me and said this A, B, C, D happened. Because sometimes there are unintended consequences for people who just may not be in this group, but may be associated or defined in this group. And I don't think that's fair to people. And that's why sometimes at the first of the year, you do see some good bills that blow up. Because somebody, but not often, it doesn't happen. I'm confused on the clergy versus the clergy member. Does this, so, and I agree with Representative Sellers. I see what you're trying to do, but it's already a crime. It's already a criminal offense to commit these acts.
No, it is not.
It's not?
No. In the state of Alabama, you have the right to consent to sex at 16.
Tell me what your bill does again.
This waives consent as a defense if you are under the age of 19.
So you have people who allow their children to marry at age 16.
Say that again.
You have people who allow their children to marry at age 16. There are many people in the state of Alabama that at age 16, between 16 and 18, they are already legally married.
Correct.
Here again, an unintended consequences based upon something that has happened personally. I'm not knocking what you're saying,
sure,
but this is going to have an impact on people because you just said it. If I'm 16 years old, I've left home. You have individuals who have dropped out of school at 16, who have run away or who have chosen to live or move in with someone. They're grown, and they have taken on a life as an adult. There are families right here in the state of Alabama, in the Bible Belt, that allow that to happen. So now what you're saying is you're bringing a piece of legislation for anybody who is not of an age or maturation, that that is not considered consent. So you're basically changing the law. I mean, you are changing it. I mean, we know that, but I'm confused by this. Now, again, when I have not had time to read a bill, it takes me a minute. I'm slow, but I'm sure. But by the time I catch up to it, I have a moment where I'm saying, what in the slim shiggity, and I said shiggity for those out there in TV reporter land. I didn't say the other word. Let's get it clear. What in the name of whatever are we doing? Because now you're telling me that if I'm 16 years old and I decide to have a relationship with someone who is 19 or above that may be involved with the clergy, that's not consent. I could be 17. I could be 18 and a half. This is a dangerous law. Y'all can vote it out of here all you want to, but this is very dangerous. You have people who marry at 18 years of age.
So I will say that they have spousal privilege, and therefore they're not going to be compelled to testify against their spouse. This is not an issue.
But they would have unintended consequences. People get mad, they get angry, they lie, they create things. They create things just to be mean, hateful, and spiteful towards people. And these individual lives are messed up for the rest of their lives. We have people in this room who may have, and that y'all can wink all y'all want to around here, but now it's some skeletons in a lot of folks' closets in here. Some warm bodies. And there's a lot of things that we sit right here in this room that we vote for when that light come on red. Or we vote against. But some of our children are going through some of these same things. That's why we're working now to try to get, why we have been able a few years ago to start getting expungement laws, because you had so many students who went to college and did dumb, stupid, crazy things that were children of legislators, that they all of a sudden wanted to start making sure that they could get those records expunged in some kind of way, because their kids now are going to law school or medical school and they wanted those records to look good. Right here in this house. But I'm not going to stand here and be a hypocrite. At the end of the day, I see what you're trying to do. I just don't agree with classifying just the clergy, because there may be somebody else that may not be the clergy, and I'm not going to hold the clergy. That's not for me to hold them to any higher standard. That's for God to do. I'm not here to judge. Judge ye not that ye may be judged. And I know the Bible better than anybody up in here. I'm a church girl. 3-4 nights out the week having to go to church. When I grew up, that was the only place you could go was to church. But this bill right here gives me pause now, because what you're saying is if I'm 16 years old, if I'm 17 and a half, and I don't even have to marry that man, But I could be in a sexual relationship with that man, and something could go awry, or something can happen, and then that person could possibly be charged with a sexual offense against me if he were a member of the clergy, and we were not married. And you're not even you're taking us way outside even past 19, you're taking us past the line of demarcation as it relates to the age of maturation here in the state of Alabama. I mean, it's gonna pass out, but I think this is some absolute foolery right here. And I don't care who your friend is, but I mean, come on now. I'm very concerned about this. I am very, 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 very concerned about this piece of legislation now that I know exactly what it does. So all the little girls out here that's 16, 17, 18 years old that do not live with their parents or have gone on, y'all better heed the warning, because your male boyfriend or whatever could be in a lot of trouble if he's a member of the clergy or a clergyman.
Ladies' time has expired. I got a number of lights on. Y'all want to speak on the amendment? Chair recognizes the gentleman from Montgomery, Representative Ingram.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for bringing this bill. I have the same basic bill drafted. Something happened in my district to a young girl 3 days after she had turned 17, maybe 4 days. Her leader in that church, they went off, and it happened, and it went on for several years. And this is horrible. We've got a law to protect them when they're in their schools, in private and public, and other places, but we don't have them protected for our teachers in our churches. And I don't know why. We're one of the few states that don't have this, but thank you for bringing it. Actually, I have the bill I was going to drop this week, but I'm glad you've got yours ahead of me. I've got full sponsor. You got my full support, and I hope you open it up for co-sponsors.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it. Thank you, Ms. Speaker.
I appreciate that.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the lady from Macon, Representative Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I see what you're trying to do, but I'm kind of confused as to what the laws are now and why this one is only geared at the clergy and not just everybody.
Yeah. So, again, honestly, I don't disagree with that point. I'm happy to work with anybody to create additional legislation that addresses those issues. But today, this is where we are. This is what we focused on in ensuring that this area was at least protected. And unfortunately, because our state age of consent is 16, from 16 up until the age of 19, you've got kids that are in these churches that are under people who have either they're in a position of trust or authority over them, and they groom them and wait until they are 16 to make sexual contact with these kids. And it's essentially a loophole that they've been able to exploit, and that's all I'm trying to do is close that loophole in a place where, I mean, we stand up here and we work to protect children all the time in legislation. And I would argue that their sexual purity is probably one of the most important things to protect, and that's all I'm aiming to do with this.
So you're basically saying that anyone 19 and younger,
Under 19.
under 18 and under, are minors. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they're in the state of Alabama. You're an adult at 19 but you have consent at 16 for sexual activity. No, I've said under 19.
Because I didn't know what the law was until I had a friend to tell me that she had to sign for her daughter to get married.
Mhm.
And I said, what? She said she wasn't of age, so we had to sign. So my question is, how do we really know, how are we going to determine whether this person is not seriously in an affair with the clergy?
I think ultimately, at the end of the day, we're looking to protect children. There are so many stories that I could share with you where we have victims, a lot of them, who have absolutely no recourse against abusers right now. And that is what we are working to address.
But you're only, like I say, you're only doing this for the clergy. Suppose a teacher does this.
Teachers are already covered by a separate standalone law in the state of Alabama. This actually mimics the bill that exists today that makes this illegal for teachers. It's just really the same bill.
Same bill that so
Yes, ma'am.
teachers. But any other occupation that deals with, that gets a relationship with a person this age, it's okay.
I don't think it's okay. I would encourage you. I will work with you on a piece of legislation that addresses that.
You see what I'm saying? It's so confusing because, as you're saying, for this one it's this, but for this one it's something else in the same situation.
No, I mean, I think the argument could be made, then why did you ever pass the teacher law, right? Why at that point did y'all not include all of these people at the same time? Unfortunately, we don't have anything in here in our state law that addresses anything between that 16 to under 19 age. It exists for teachers only and staff at schools. That's it. I'm adding this because they sit in a position of trust and authority. Again, happy to bring another bill. I'm not putting it in this one. I want this to be clear. I can't tell you how many people have gone to law enforcement agencies, and no knock on the law enforcement agencies at all, but they turn them away, telling them there's nothing they can do. That's a problem. I don't want this to be a problem. I don't want another young girl or a young boy to go to law enforcement and be told, there's nothing we can do. It's too vague. We don't know. I want to close that, fix that problem. And I'm still willing to work on other stuff with you guys. I have zero problems with that. I actually agree with you on that. But this alone.
Because, we look at all the things that's really happened in the Catholic Church. And I mean, all those things have been prosecuted. I'm not sure under what law, but I mean, those kids were really minors. And the law, the existing law applied to them. See what I'm saying? I'm still trying to figure out.
I know for sure that there was a specific case, and I can't give you names, but I was called about an issue related to the exact same thing you're talking about, where they did not get any action, nothing, because they were told there was nothing they could do for the same reasons that the other individuals.
I don't accept that because, like I said, when you see what has happened
I'm just telling you
with
what I was
all
told.
this Catholic stuff, I mean, these people are getting big time for what they did to those minor kids. I mean, and that was basically the clergy part.
Are they
all I'm
under
saying
the
is
age of
your
16?
bill. I see what you're trying to do, but it leaves so much confusion out here as to okay, only clergy are the ones that can do this. We look at what's happening with so many gymnasts that were young age that were sexually. I mean, they got big time for that too. So my question, my concern is, there's already something in law that's getting these people.
Not after 16. Unless they said no, there is nothing. So if they have been groomed and taught because of the position of trust and authority that they sit in and have groomed these kids to think that this is appropriate action, this is the way you're supposed to do things. They consent. There's nothing you can do to them.
Well, like I said, it's really confusing to me as to why the current law doesn't catch them, and then, like I say, with what has happened in the past with all these clergies, all those folks been sent to jail. One of them said for life or whatever.
Yeah.
For what he did to them, and I mean, just to single it out, I think for clergy is the part that I have problems with. I mean, why can't we just make it for anybody? Not just clergy, for anybody who's done this to a minor, a person that this law will apply. But according to yours, this only applies to people in clergy.
Yes, ma'am.
And if we're really concerned about children, we need to make it for anybody who
I
can
agree
deal
with you.
with a child.
I completely agree. Happy to work with you on that.
Yeah, it's like I said, I understand your intent, but I think you're really losing focus on the real issue, and that's the abuse of a child. And when we just label it only by clergy, it kind of leaves it wide open for anybody else to do what they want to do with children. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Pickens, Representative Bolton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'll be brief. I wanted to take an opportunity to come down and Representative Halsey and thank you for your work on this bill and to make sure that people aren't misunderstanding what you're trying to accomplish. Now, what we're trying to do is make sure that we're holding people accountable that have a strong amount of influence over young people. Specifically with the clergy, we've seen a number of events where the clergy have been indicated and getting involved with their students there and that have led to other charges and have led to other civil recourse and that. And I just, I want to thank you for bringing this bill on, and I understand the intent, and I think some people are reading too expansive details into it, but thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to call the, what am I saying? Call the carryover. The call of the chair.
Yeah, you've heard the crest of the
Sorry.
sponsors carry over the bill to call the chair. All in favor say aye. We will carry it over to call of the chair. Thank you. Clerk, call up next bill.
On page 6 of the calendar, House Bill number 75 by Representative Ensler relating to crimes and offenses.
Representative Ensler recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is very straightforward. It just adds letter carriers to an existing list of assault in the second degree. I've heard from letter carriers all throughout the state that are increasingly having a difficult time with their jobs because they're being assaulted. So this just adds them to that list. And I would move for passage of the BIR.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Gavan.
Just Postal Service. Yeah.
How you sort of bill carrier? Put my dog on it?
What's that?
How I sort of put my dog? See my dog on it?
We had already passed a letter carrier bill dealing with this a few years ago.
I'm not sure what was passed
Something-
years ago.
I mean, certainly you researched it. You would have researched it. Yeah, but I don't know why I thought we had something a few years ago with regards to letter carriers or something. I don't know if somebody.
So right now, they're not covered under that definition of protected employees under assault in the second degree, so that's why we're adding them.
But would they not be protected as under assault period, just as an individual citizen?
They would, but we currently under law have different groups of people, first responders, EMTs and whatnot, so this just adds them to that list.
In favor of those either. You know, I'm not big on anything that distinguishes those individuals, especially when it comes to immunity bills. And I know this is not an immunity bill, but when we start classifying them, everybody is immune from prosecution here in the state of Alabama. I'm not even sure why we even have a civil system any longer, because of all of these different classifications that have become immune since I've been here these past 14 years. But what does your bill do?
So it just adds letter carriers, so U.S. postal workers that deliver mail, it adds them to the list of those that are covered under assault in the second degree.
What about Uber drivers?
So I've heard from postal workers throughout the state that this is a major issue that they're facing.
I didn't ask you, I
Right,
asked
so
you about
so
Uber
it's a big
drivers.
point. If you want to do a bill, I can do a bill on Uber drivers if that's an issue. But right now we're just talking about the letter
No,
carriers.
I didn't ask you that. If I want to do a bill, I can do whatever bill I choose to do. If that's the bill is one of interest, and I would need you to validate it, or or help relegate anything for me. So no, that's not why I was asking that. I'm just simply asking with regards to Uber drivers. I can't remember what it was that someone made mention of. So I'm just looking at, as we begin to classify these individuals, and I have no problem with letter carriers. Letter carriers have been very good to me. I have some very, very close friends that are letter carriers. So that is not what is at issue. My concern is when we begin to classify one group, but then when we bring bills here to deal with discrimination or classes of people, whether it be for their hair, whether it be for their weight, it's like everybody freezes and the world comes to an end because it may impact commerce or it may impact business or whatever. So that's the one reason that I came up here. I just wanted to get the clarity as to what the bill did.
Sure, and the idea is that letter carriers are in a unique situation in that they encounter the public much more than other employees.
Just on CNN this morning, they did an expose where a 9-year-old boy, I think it was either in Washington, but it may have been an Uber driver, had a golf club and brutally assaulted in broad daylight. And thank God the citizens saw him, but he was trying to rob him too. A letter carrier. This was just this morning. I was watching that story. So yeah, I just wanted to get the clarity on it. But again, I have issues because the issues I feel that we should be addressing here that distinguishes individuals, we don't address those, and we're not supporting them. So no, if I wanted to bring a bill relative to the Uber driver or Lyft driver or whomever, I could certainly bring one of those myself. I think my bar license is renewed in October, just as yours is. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Question for the body now is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Recorded votes, 96 ayes, 1 nay, 1 abstention. The BR has been adopted.
Thank you.
Representative answer. Question for the body is final passage of HB 75. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 94 ayes, 2 nays, 0 abstention. HB 75 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 7 of the calendar, House Bill number 78 with substitute by Representative Ensler relating to crimes and offenses.
Representative Ensler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure many people have seen in the news and have heard the term swatting. It is increasingly an issue where bomb threats or issues dealing with mass shootings are called in, but it's not actually happening. But law enforcement shows up in mass, often a SWAT team, a bomb squad. So this just creates the offense of swatting. And what it does is it correlates that depending on what the threat is that someone calls in, the crime would correspond to that. So ask for passage of the BIR.
You've heard the explanation of the bill. Question for the body is passage of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 96 ayes, 0 nays, 3 abstentions. BIR is passed. Representative Ensler.
And I move for passage of the bill, or of the, we have a committee substitute that just had a few technical corrections to some of the
Care to
language.
explain the substitute for us?
Sure, so in there we had the word jurisdiction, but we just added in venue. It had said individuals, but we changed that to entities to include law enforcement entities.
You've heard the explanation of the sub. Representative, you're going to speak on sub. Representative Roger, you're going to speak on sub. We're going to stay on sub. Okay. All right.
Well, I really want to know what does the sub do? I don't know what it does because it really kind of confusing. The whole issue kind of confusing, really. What does your sub do?
So the substitute just corrected a few words. We had initially had the word jurisdiction, but we changed it to venue just for technical purposes. It had the term individual in there for restitution, but we changed individual to say entities. So that way law enforcement entities are eligible for the restitution.
Okay, what I'm concerned about is suppose like we had the problem with this girl in Birmingham, right? Right. Remember that situation? I'm sure you read about it, right? So really it bars around there, right? She's already being charged for everything. So what does this do?
Right. So this is a situation where if someone calls in, say a bomb threat or there's a
missing
mass
person,
shooting,
or missing
and
person.
instead of just say 1 or 2 police officers responding or them looking into it at a later time, this is when there is a huge turnout of law enforcement. So it's often a SWAT team, a bomb squad. It takes a lot of personnel to respond because they think it's an active threat. So it's a little bit different than the Carly Russell situation where someone called in that, but there wasn't necessarily that massive law enforcement response.
Okay, in the Carly Russell thing, it was similar, but a lot of folks came out. I mean, volunteers, everybody, police officers, everything like that. Everything. So it's different from that situation. It's not like that.
So it's dependent on the facts and circumstances. It's possible that that in that situation, someone could be charged under swatting, but usually the swatting deals more with a bomb threat or an active shooter threat.
Okay. I read about that where they have a bomb threat, but there's no bomb threat. They come out in mass to check, but there's no bomb threat. So that person can be charged with a crime, right?
Correct.
I had no problem with that, but I was concerned about was it about the Carly Russell situation? That's what I was concerned about.
So it could cover a situation like that, but again, usually this is pertaining more towards those bomb threats or gun violence if there's a mass shooting.
All right. Who going to determine the extent of it? I'm saying who going to be the determination? Who can make that determination?
So that would have to be the prosecutors that if they decide if they want to charge under this law or if they want to charge us under filing a false report.
So it could cover it, that also, couldn't it?
Exactly.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that what it's going to do. I don't want to get too broad. It's broad enough. I don't want to get too broader than it is because if I can understand what you're trying to do, but I just want to make sure I was concerned about that situation also.
Sure. No, I understand.
Question for the body now is adoption of the committee sub. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Recorded votes, 97 ayes, 2 nays, 1 abstention. Sub has been adopted.
Now, passage of the final.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Montgomery, Representative Ingram.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The penalty on this, if we're creating a new law for this, what is the penalty? Is it going to mirror the same as a bomb threat?
So it mirrors what the threat is that someone calls in. So if someone makes a bomb threat, then the penalty would correspond with making a bomb threat. If they call in, say, an active shooter, it would correspond with being an active shooter. It just depends on what it is that they call into 911.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we wasn't jumping ahead of it and making a less law or a less penalty for it.
No, if anything, it makes it stiffer.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Van.
I know Representative Treadway is bringing that riot bill, but I mean, this is getting very close. We might as well just go ahead on and support it because what you're saying is, so if someone, and I'm just trying to get the clarity. Sure. So if someone calls in a bomb threat, it's not a bomb threat, they would be charged with whatever the subsequent, whatever they were calling in. So if they're charged with a bomb threat, and if it was, say, whatever, what would they be charged with under this law?
Right. So, and I'll just give a few of the examples. So a violation of this is a Class A misdemeanor if the false or misleading report is a misdemeanor, and it goes on to explicate that. So if the crime itself
Nothing goes above a misdemeanor?
It does.
So tell me if they're a felony offense?
There is. If what someone calls in is a felony,
exactly,
they can be charged with a felony for it.
So they will be charged with the felony that they called in.
Not that someone not if someone calls in a true situation that they report. If someone calls in and
of course, I understand that they were making some type of false whatever. I got that.
Sure.
We're speaking of the person who makes a call that is a false report of a bomb threat, whatever it may be, but it just so happens not to be legit. That person would be then charged with whatever degree of whatever it is that he is called in. He would be penalized, whether it be a misdemeanor or a federal offense. Am I correct? Because I'm having to dissect this bill to you like I have to do my Republican colleagues. So I'm getting very agitated.
Sure. So if the person knowingly, if they know that it's not true, and they call it in, then yes.
Willfully or wantonly.
Exactly.
Make that phone call, and they say to law enforcement or someone that there is a bomb that's about to go off at the Alabama State Legislature. And I'm assuming if the tactical unit, the SWAT unit, and all of these folks are called in, and just so happens whatever that day is not true, then they would be charged with what?
They could be charged with a felony for making a.
So they wouldn't be charged with making a false report. They would be literally charged with whatever that felony is or was. That's all I'm saying.
So they could be charged making a terroristic threat. So it's not just a false report.
I got that. So then they would literally be charged with not just the threat itself, but the crime thereof of each one of those threats. Maybe is that what you're saying? 'Cause that's
Correct.
what I'm trying to get to.
Yes.
So what do we do with other crimes in which someone gives a false report or whatever, terrorist threat, whatever? What do we do with those people?
So it's already, of course,
I
as you know,
got
a
that.
crime
It's
making false
already a
report.
law,
So
but we're not charging them with that crime, though. This is different because we're now saying that if I called in and made a threat. Now,
Right.
listen now, I'm just saying, now, this is when we have to tell the public the truth. Because now, when we bring these bills, I don't care who you are, Republican or Democrat, and someone is coming up here asking these questions, there's no need to be tap dancing around because these are legitimate questions that need to be answered because we all deserve a right to be able to go back and speak intelligently on them. So it's not about that. I'm just trying to get the clarity because when someone stands up here and tells me that if I call in a false threat, I could have been mentally, something could have been going on with my mental capacity. Something could have happened. So what happens then? Did you speak with anybody? Or is there a caveat in there or anything that deals with those nuances or what have you within the body of the bill? Or is it just anyone who makes that statement? It could be a child or someone 16. Kids, young people play pranks all the time. 18 years old, unintended consequences, then their whole life is ruined. So I'm confused by a lot that has transpired in here today.
Right, so someone could make a defense of disability or mental
But your bill
situation.
does not make an exception to
It does
that.
not for that.
So it just says that if you call in a terrorist threat, that you could be charged with the terrorist threat that you called in.
Right.
Okay. Okay, that wasn't so hard to answer. I don't know why that seemed like it was so hard for you to answer that question. That's a very easy question to answer. So I'm not sure why we had to tap dance around it. Because I'm not here to hurt your bill or try to. I'm not, I don't have a dog in the fight one way or the other. But I do have concerns that we're going to now penalize someone and criminalize someone, not just with just a false terrorist threat. That should be sufficient enough. There's a lot of penalties involved with that. So why now it has to become an added felony? I'm not sure what your rationale behind it is. So tell me your rationale.
Yeah, the rationale is that this is increasingly happening. And
Where?
It happened in Pell City just a few weeks ago. It happened to my own synagogue here in Montgomery. It's happened.
How many have we had in the state of Alabama in the last year?
There have been dozens of them, according to Aaliyah.
So you've actually seen the numbers. So it's 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And do you have the demographics on the persons who made the phone call?
I do not.
And I bet you most of those calls were kids. And I bet you $500 to a bucket of crap that most of those calls were probably children who did it. I'm willing to bet you. And at best, I don't think, and especially in smaller cities, that they sent out the entire bomb squad and this, that, and other. And I'm not in favor of anybody doing it. It's wrong. What's wrong is wrong. I'm not here to uphold anyone for doing wrong, but I'm here, and even the bill previous to me, I heard about the little girl leaving with the preacher and all this stuff at 17. The
And
relationship is
so
she comes back- what?
No, so my concern as well was with juveniles that do that. And what I specifically asked LSA was, would they be covered? And the answer was no, that they would be adjudicated as juveniles, so they would be handled in a different way should they call that in. So this is focusing on adults that are doing that. Does that share that concern with you?
I just have a concern with the bill, period. I'm perplexed with the level of hypocrisy that I have seen in here. I heard someone last week speak about what the 1901 Constitution of Alabama did. But in a few days, we're going to be voting to take away the rights of people to help people. with an absentee ballot. But yet they spoke about disenfranchising black people's right to vote last week during a debate, in the debate. And I'm saying, okay, am I missing something? So I'm lost today, and again, I'm just trying to get the clarity. So as we're defining these bills, because so often people come to my office and sit down with my partner and I, and it's an unintended consequence, and it's very unfortunate. Good people who may have made a mistake or who didn't know, in their ignorance of the law is no defense. Lady Justice, you've heard the adage, is blind. Thank you.
Question for the body is final passage of HB 78. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Court votes 99 ayes, 2 nays, 1 abstention. HB 78 has passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 7 of the calendar, House Bill number 21 with substitute by Representative Brown relating to consumer privacy.
Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is House Bill 21. It's the genetic data privacy bill. Essentially, under current law, your DNA, you have no expectation of privacy under the current law. What this does, it says that DNA providers such as Ancestry, 23andMe, and others must provide notice of their privacy policies, and they must obtain your consent if they sell your DNA to a third party. They must honor your requests also to destroy your DNA if you choose to do so.
Question for the body is passage of BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Court votes 100 ayes, 0 nays. BR has passed. Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That I call for adoption of the substitute. Adoption of the sub.
Yes. You care to explain the sub? This committee sub?
Yes, sir. What this did, I had 3 amendments to it, and essentially, one just clarified the ability of law enforcement with a subpoena to obtain DNA for solving cold cases. The second amendment protects HIPAA compliance. And then the third amendment added research facilities along with hospitals as protected classes, and that's for our universities and research facilities.
Heard the explanation of the sub. Clerk unlock the machine and members vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Court votes 102 ayes, 0 nays. Sub has been adopted. Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I call for final passage of House Bill 21.
It is questions. Final passage of HB 21. Clerk unlock the machine and members vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Court votes 102 ayes, 0 nays. HB 21 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you,
Mr.
members.
Chairman. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 8 of the calendar, House Bill number 127 by Representative Pettis relating to crimes and offenses.
Mr. Chairman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under existing laws, certain inmates released on probation may be subject to electronic monitoring. This bill will make it unlawful for an individual subject to electronic monitoring to knowingly alter, disable, deactivate, tamper with, remove, damage, or destroy any device used to facilitate this electronic monitoring. That I call for the BR.
That's questions. Passage of BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. Members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Court votes 100 ayes, 0 nays. BR has passed.
Can't even vote my own machine.
Chairman Pettis.
There's a floor amendment. I think Judge Hill should have it. Oh, no? Oh, I asked for final passage then.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Okay.
Thank you so very kindly. They told me not to preach, but I was going to say, let me ask the question. Would you yield?
Yes.
What are the costs of these monitors?
Very expensive. I don't know the exact cost, but I know they're expensive.
That's saying a lot.
Mhm.
So what are the fines for tampering?
Under this bill, it'll be a Class C felony.
I mean, they already under the law, and they're going to go back to prison, right?
Yes.
But you don't know how much it costs.
I don't know what a monitor costs, no.
You know, when I think about what?
We did a physical note when they passed this. It was very expensive. But when they passed the bill, they left this out, is what I was told.
What is the cost to incarcerate a person in the state of Alabama? You don't know that either.
No, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Request for the body's final passage of HB 127. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 98 ayes, 0 nays, 3 abstentions. HB 127 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
Clerk, you call back up HB 125, please.
On page 6 of the calendar, House Bill number 125 would substitute by Representative Halsey relating to crimes and offenses.
Representative Halsey.
Okay, sorry. So, Mr. Speaker, I have HB 125 as a committee sub, and I move to adopt HB 125 as substituted.
Have we adopted?
We did adopt it? No. Oh, sorry. Move to adopt.
Representative Sellers, you want to speak
I
on the sub
apologize.
or on the bill? Okay. Question for the body is adoption of the sub on HB 125. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 93 ayes, 0 nays. Sub has been adopted. Question for the body's final passage. Representative Sellers, you're recognized.
Thank you, for Mr. Speaker, for the recognition, and I will let you yield.
Yes, sir.
I may not talk 10 minutes, but just to bring, I had a couple of things that, to bring clarity, because I think that there may be some unintended consequences with this particular bill, especially when you deal with the ages. And from a cultural standpoint or perspective, in certain cultures, ministers may be ordained at a younger age, 18, 19. There are some preachers that started preaching at the age of 5. And when you reach that young age, you may be a youth minister over a youth department. Your age of dating, because if you're unmet, your age of dating may be 2-3 years younger than you or older than you. So I think that it lies some unintended consequences when we do this particular legislation. I did have question, what is under certain circumstances?
Those circumstances are what are laid out that go over what are the charges. So under the circumstances of you engaging in sexual activity that are defined in Section A, under to section B. Actually, section A, B, on page 2. Those are the certain circumstances. And then it goes over onto page 3, and it has all of those as well, which, again, these are all identical to our teacher law. So you pick up point 1, 2, 1 and 2 on page 3. So you're talking about solicitation, distributing inappropriate materials, and then engaging in sexual activity.
And also you use the word clergy. Is that man and woman? Is it clergy or clergywoman?
So it applies as is defined, which says ordained, licensed, commissioned. If you're a female and you're ordained, it applies to you.
Okay. Understanding that there are different ordinations depending on the denomination that exists. Trust me, I am passionate about this call for ministry, and I do believe that clergy are held at a higher standard. I serve in our denominational work, from our national work to our state work to the local work, and I've been very involved with policy dealing with handling our youth and to make sure that they are protected. Would you be amended for a friendly amendment to change that age from 19 to 18 years?
No, sir. It is, you're an adult at 19 in the state. You're not an adult until 19. I'm following the teacher law. So 16, 17, and 18-year-olds is the only age demographic that this will apply to.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Question for the body is final passage of HB 125. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Recorded votes 83 ayes, 85 ayes, 1 nay, 12 abstentions. HB 125 has passed.
I have been asked to open it up for co-sponsors, sir.
Ms. Clerk, let's open it up for co-sponsors. Clerk will lock machines. Thanks, sir.
Thank you,
Thank the
Mr.
lady.
Speaker.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Levener, for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. A lot of committees will be meeting tomorrow, and just a suggestion, when you've passed that good legislation out of committee, leave that meeting and go straight to my office and fill out the request to be considered for rules so that we can get a good calendar going for Thursday and for next week. So please remember, if you have any questions or need to review that, let me know. And just a reminder to members, rules will be meeting at adjournment. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Pro Tem Pringle.
I move the House stand in adjournment.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? House is adjourned.